Dude, yeah, it's crazy. I found out my company is like we're doing this big project for SpaceX, and
Oh,
I was like walking through. I was walking through the office, and we have this table, and they had like all these parts, and they were just called space lasers. I was cracking up when I saw that. I'm like, are those
are they
Jewish
Jewish?
lasers?
Please be Jewish space lasers. That was my favorite.
I really wanted to ask somebody. I don't think anybody would have got the joke though, so I just kept it to
No.
myself.
Oh well. Did you play any chess today?
Oh, I did, man. I play chess every day. I play like I don't know, probably 20 to 30 games a day.
Dude, you do chess like I do music. That's awesome.
Yeah. See, well, that's like I do like I'll sit there and I like when I play, I'll throw on a song. So every time I
Oh
take a
yeah.
break, I listen to music and I play chess and I just sit there and like, oh man, I love it.
It's the
Fucking love it.
fucking life.
It's I don't know, for like me it's really nice because it's a way to like break whatever thought process I have going on to just focus on this one thing for a little bit.
Hmm.
And then I come back and something else I was thinking about, like, oh, okay, now I have an idea for this now.
Would you say that you get into the quote unquote flow state in
Uh,
playing chess?
Not yet.
It's probably too slow, right? It's not really like a fast
Um,
thing.
I would say there probably have been times when I got into a flow state where I saw like the moves and it's like, oh yeah, if you do that, boom, I'm going to do this, and like it
Hmm.
just fell into place. But a lot of times, like I don't know. I, like once I make a mistake, like you're out of the flow state completely, and
Hmm.
I'm bad enough, or I'm not good enough where I make a mistake pretty much every game, and then I realize it after I do it. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, chess is different than art because it's deduction.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
I
there's
get what
nothing
you mean.
worse than like making a mistake, and then once you do it, you see that mistake right away, and you're like, God damn it.
Like I told you, I was only in chess. I played. Wasn't like a member of it. I just went and played with people who were in it, and they always kicked my ass. So I am not I guess multitasking, but
Sewer. With chess, I mean, a lot of it
you
comes.
said you could. You said you could like legitimately think about what 2, 3 moves ahead.
Oh yeah, easy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
like
that's
like I could sit down with an
people who are
hour
in
for
it.
you and show you how to do that. Like it's like
I would love to
once
try sometime for real. We need to get like in chat and try to figure that out sometime because I could play. I could play chess. I could see me liking that.
yeah, like once you could like have it explained to you, it's like okay, well think about this, and this, and just
Hmm.
do that before you make a move. Then you can, every piece that can only go to so many spaces. So like if I do this and your knight's here, your knight can only go to these many spaces. So I can move
Hmm.
this here, and you can only go to these spaces. Okay, that's all you can do. So you're gonna have to go here, and then you plan it out that way. But yeah,
We'll get into that. Don't forget, I'll try to hit you up sometime when you're free, maybe this weekend or next weekend, and
yeah,
you can teach me how to think multiple moves ahead. I'd like to know how to do that.
it's a good time.
Perry, what you doing?
What's
Oh,
up?
we still
I'm
Are
rolling
you
up right
walking
now.
again?
No,
Are you on your walk?
I will be after I roll this joint.
Oh,
I've had a
hell yeah!
handful of questions that I'm not disciplined enough to write down, and I know that I'll forget. But one of them that I remember,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
um, yeah, let me throw it away. So we've talked before that there are an infinite amount of numbers between one and two.
correct.
Is there an infinite amount of time in between one moment and another?
yes.
It's a continuum. So I don't know if you could say that's the problem with saying one moment in time as compared to the next in terms of like physics. You know what I mean? Because
So from
it's not
one
like we
second
we
to two
put the points.
seconds.
We are the
Yeah.
one who put the points in time. Time is not like sectioned out like that. Uh, maybe I'm incapable of answering this, but you want to try it again? Maybe somebody else in the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard someone else say something.
Yeah, infinite is just a concept. This is something Einstein actually thought about. And he is like, okay, if you move from this point to this point, there's an infinite amount of spaces between that. It's the same
That's right.
thing. It's the notion of like infinite is just a concept that we use. So
Mm-hmm.
so if you take like, okay, here's like I'm gonna walk 10 feet. Okay, let's go half that 5 feet.
5 and then 2.5 and then arrow eventually hits the target. Does that take
Does that
away
mean
the
it crossed an
concept?
infinity? I
Right,
don't know.
right,
I don't know. I mean, I would have to say yes, it did. But I mean, you can make, there's countable infinities, which is the real number line. Then there's uncountable infinities, which is between 0 and 1. You can just keep adding to 0. You know what I
right.
mean? And you would never be able to count as far as you can go. And then there's like weird infinities that certain theoretical maths deal with. There was a video I watched at one time. There's like, I think they have like 9 or 10 named types of infinities that I saw. I just can't remember all their names. But the countable and uncountable were the two that stuck out the most to me. Is the steps in between numbers. That question you just asked that you just asked is perfect, because does time flow like that, or could we say there is this moment and then there is this moment? You know what I mean?
It's almost like you have to say space time perhaps and include the space part of it, because what if you just keep stretching the fabric of the universe, by two or whatever the factor is, and or shrinking it. I mean, I don't know. I think either way, it's just a half step thing that I keep thinking about.
Yeah, like how can there be an infinity between the first foot and the foot and a half, and then it gets smaller and smaller each time. That's the weird thing about infinite regress. We know that the arrow will hit the target, right? Even though it has to do all those half steps. So that's why I'm okay in some ways with an infinite regress in certain topics.
So how many infinities did we just experience while talking about that?
All of them.
3.
3.
3, yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. Infinity is a concept, and we don't understand it. So if somebody wants to say that they do, I would be very skeptical of that.
Right.
Yeah. But like I'd even go so far as like infinity is just something that we use as a placeholder in maths, right? To like have some sort of understanding, right? So we need
Yeah,
infinity to understand calculus. So we have to have that placeholder to make sense of what's going on.
yeah, yeah. The infinity might be our dumbass way of looking at it now, but really, calculus could be added upon and revised in 100 years, and they're like, oh yeah, there's not actually limits to infinity. It's this.
Yeah, I watched a video on that. There's bigger infinities
Yep.
than some other ones that you can
Yeah,
bracket and whatnot.
that's probably one of the videos that I watched, honestly.
I forget who it was. It was some mathematician who really didn't. He was actually very like shunned for his work, and it wasn't until he died that he was given the credit that he was due.
Are
I
you
forget
talking
his
about
name.
Isaac Newton?
No, no, he was obviously
So
well
Isaac
credited.
Newton. Isaac Newton's the one who sort of invented calculus, and like in the past,
Yeah,
like people
Yeah,
looked at him like he was a
I can
fucking
search it up real
yeah,
quick.
the
Bigger
Mathematicum Principia,
infinities.
yeah,
or the Newton's laws of universal motion, or whatever he calls.
yeah,
It was the
you might be
basis of
looking.
all calculus. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not him.
By the way, guys,
Yeah,
Brett said he
live
would be here. He's just taking a
also.
break.
Oh man, yeah,
But
cognitive biases. This is going to be a good show, though.
Oh yeah, I'll get started whenever. We're just chilling. We can keep chatting for as long as you guys want.
Yeah.
Irreducible complexity. Get the fuck out of here.
I was listening to Joel talk, and the Jesus existing, and he was saying, he brought up a good point. He said, "What evidence would convince you that Jesus didn't exist?" And he was pretty much demonstrating the bias that people go into, and it's not just with religion. Surely it can be posed in other aspects as well, but.
There was this apologist named Mike Lacona. Has anybody ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Uh,
Okay, he's a popular apologist. He debated Matt Dillahunty or Bart Ehrman or somebody, I can't remember. Somebody asked him, "What would it take for you to not for you to disbelieve, disabuse you of your beliefs?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know if you could prove that the Shroud of Turin was actually Jesus's body and it was faked and all this." And I was like, "Wow, you have a really specific outline for what would convince you of not existing." That was the weirdest answer I had ever heard anyway.
Was
He
it just
really
weird
made it about the
because he
Shroud of
made it
Turin, which was weird.
specific?
What's that?
Like because it was specific, it was kind of sketchy.
Yeah,
Is
it
that what
was
you're
really
saying?
weird. Like,
Yeah.
there's most Christians, most well organized, critical thinking, logical Christians are not going to be that specific about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Usually it's going to be more general.
A broad
It's going to be like, well,
concept.
what would it cause you not to believe? Well, I don't know. I mean, it would have to be. I don't know what answer. Who knows?
I don't
It's
know either. Yeah.
different for every person, I guess. But not irreducible complexity. That's BS. Yeah, irreducible complexity for the audience, just if they want to know, is basically if you have a system and you take one part out of that system and it doesn't function, that means that one last piece that you took out is making that irreducibly complex. That's whatever that system is. So, like uh, intelligent design proponents will talk about how the bacterioflagellum is irreducibly complex because it functions as a motor, and if you remove it, it does not function as a motor anymore. The answer is that it would just form new functions. The separated parts would have new other functions. It's not about anyway. If you want to go look it up, go look up irreducible complexity online. There's lots of scientists who go back and in depth about it. It's really cool to computational irreducibility. Yeah, that's Stephen Wolfram. Yeah, that's definitely got some teeth because it's quantum mechanically accurate, at least within his calculations. And I fucking love Stephen Wolfram and all his shit. He's a genius, bona fide genius. Um, so everybody in here pretty much knows what cognitive biases are, right? Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Dal, Scott, I'm sure everybody knows what cognitive biases are.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm probably don't. I mean, I can probably read this paragraph on. Yeah, I can read this. Okay, so a cognitive bias is a systematic pattern of deviation from the norm or the rationality or rationality in judgment. So individuals create their own subjective reality from the perception of the outside input. An individual's construction of reality, not the objective input, may dictate their behavior in the world. Thus, cognitive biases may sometimes lead to perceptual distortion, inaccurate judgment, illogical interpretation, logical fallacies, or what is broadly called irrationality. So, a caveat to add is although it may seem like such misinterpretations would be aberrations and not wanted, biases can actually help humans find commonalities and shortcuts to assist in the navigation of common situations in life. That's what I was going to say, is that cognitive biases are basically nature biologically ingrained into us because of all the reasons why we would need to make quick heuristic judgments in our early days on the plains and stuff, evolutionary psychology wise. So, Bible's faster decisions in certain situations, which can be desirable when timeliness is more valuable than accuracy. Which is based the whole idea of heuristics. And that's what heuristics is like rule of thumb and shit like that, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That kind of stuff. Other cognitive biases are a quote unquote byproduct of human processing limitations, resulting from a lack of appropriate mental mechanisms, the impact of an individual's constitution and biological state, or just simply from a limited capacity for information processing. So all of those can affect how cognitive biases are, they're modules that are produced in the mind by biology, and of course shaped by environmental factors. So it says, and we will be going to the list of cognitive biases on Wikipedia here in a second. So if anybody wants to follow along, they can jump on there. It'd be really cool if some people wanted to call in and talk about them. I've got plenty of speakers here, so we can entertain everybody for a long time. But It says a continually evolving list of cognitive biases has been identified over the last 6 decades of research on human judgment and decision making in cognitive science. Cognitive biases have efficient practical implications for areas including clinical judgment, entrepreneurship, finance, and management. So, I mean, I'm sure everybody who's advertising to you is taking advantage of cognitive biases. I guess I could get into the overview on how that came about, but it's just those two people and a few other psychologists that I'm noting that are actually credited. Okay, yeah, Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman, and they're pretty recent cognitive science. He's a psychologist, and Amos Tversky is a cognitive psychologist and a mathematician. Okay. So they're the two that kind of got into the whole since like 1972 by really putting these lists of biases together. So I guess let's just go to, since everybody knows all that shit. I mean, we understand the practicalities of it. We get the consequences of it. So let's go start looking at some of the biases. Let's go to the list of cognitive biases on Wikipedia. Let's read together on this. This is let's see if there's any new information here. They often say. Yeah, although the reality of most of these biases is confirmed by reproducible research, there are often controversies about how to classify these biases or how to explain them. Of course, several theoretical causes are known for some cognitive biases, which provides a classification of biases by their common generative mechanism, such as like information processing. There have been critics, certain critics have criticized that the framing of cognitive biases as errors in judgment that's a bad sentence. And favors interpreting them. Okay, screw that sentence. That doesn't make any sense. Explanations include information processing rules called heuristics that the brain uses to produce decisions or judgments quickly. Okay. We're getting to it. I'm just making sure there's no good information here to cover. There are also controversies on some biases. Okay. There are also controversies over some of these biases as to whether they count as useless or irrational, or whether they result in useful attitudes or useful behavior. For example, when getting to know others, people tend to ask leading questions, which seems biased towards confirming their assumptions about the person. However, this kind of confirmation bias has also been argued to be an example of a social skill, a way to establish a connection with another person. So you can see how cognitive biases might help us. Although the research we're not worried about any other species besides human subjects. So when you get started, a lot of these, like there's categories, and there's like, oh my god, dude, there's like 50 categories, not really 50, but there's quite a few categories of a bunch of them on this one page, and I was going to try to go through and maybe cover some of them and see if we could point out to when maybe politicians or authority figures maybe use these biases and try to fucking bullshit us and stuff. Maybe we can understand these problems. So does anybody want to say anything? Anybody got anything on their mind? We can always change the subject. I don't want to stop anybody. Perry, what do you think? What do you think about cognitive biases?
So I'm cheating and I'm looking at the list and I see a couple of things. So the second one, if you don't mind me just jumping to it.
Yeah.
So the second bullet point, biases that affect decision making, where the desirability of options has to be considered. And in parentheses it says sunk cost fallacy.
Which one is this now? Which one is this under?
So I'm under types. Is that what you're looking at under Wikipedia? Oh, I see. You're
list of cognitive biases.
Chart. You're looking at the chart.
Yeah. List of just type in list of cognitive biases on Wikipedia. Yeah, you'll see them.
I see it now.
Yeah.
But sunk cost fallacy, or sunk cost, I didn't know it was a fallacy, is interesting. For example, when I had to come back to Florida from Michigan, I had a bunch of weed, and I wanted to smoke. I wanted to smoke it all. Otherwise, I was going to throw it away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an example of sunk cost. And I'm surprised to see here that it's a fallacy. In terms of what
Well,
you
remember,
said,
cognitive biases are the causes of why fallacies happen.
right? It's first the bias, and then the
Mm-hmm.
outcome is the fallacy. So that leads
Mm-hmm.
me to think, because within your definition, you said it was kind of like a diversion from the natural
Yeah, it said
pattern
norm, so take that to
norm.
mean
Okay.
prescription.
So
Yeah,
I mean, are we
some
not
kind
just
of.
all cognitively biasly
I
talking
don't know how
always,
we
or
could. I mean, I don't even know how we could live without using our biases.
right? They're all
Right?
heuristics because we
They're
can't
all
get
heuristics.
the
Yeah.
truth unmediated of this
It
interpretive
is our
structure.
overaction of our imagination and our pattern recognition that cause these problems.
Yeah.
Did you want me to read
Yeah,
this
keep
first
going.
one? Fundamental.
Find some interesting ones and fucking let's get into it.
I do
Just
have to say, Perry,
yeah,
though, this is where
yeah.
like you sort of run into problems with certain groups of people because they'll say, well, like, oh, we're all biased, so then my bias
Mm-hmm.
is equally as
Yeah.
biased as your
Right.
bias. Wrong.
Yeah.
Like, right? That's a hard stop right there.
So
Like,
it's
That's
just
the
saying like
colloquial.
the
yeah,
usefulness and rationality of it,
yeah.
and that as well as far as I can tell, a subjective measure to the individual talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Buses of ours should be used.
Well, here's a good example. Perry, go to the top of that list and find. Do you see anchoring bias? Do you see where that is?
Yep.
Towards the top. You got it?
The inability. Yeah, you want me to read it or?
Read conservatism bias. It's the second one.
Yeah, I think I'm on a different list than you because I'm looking at it at Wikipedia on the page. Cognitive
It
bias
might see.
Wikipedia list.
Yeah, this is list of cognitive biases on
I see
Wikipedia
it.
is what
I
this is
see
called.
I see
Thomas,
it
put
now.
the link in the chat.
Oh yeah, I could do that. My phone's a piece of garbage, guys. That's the problem. Is I'm on my computer, but I'm operating everything through my phone. So if somebody could post, just type in list of cognitive biases on Wikipedia. I promise it's that easy.
I can read it.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh,
Go for
yeah.
it.
Yeah, the conservatism bias. Go ahead.
Yep. In cognitive psychology and decision science, conservatism or conservative bias is a bias which refers to the tendency to revise one's belief insufficiently when presented with new evidence. This bias describes human belief revision in which people overweigh prior distribution rate or underweight new sample evidence when compared to Bayesian belief revision.
A good example would be if you had a discussion with a young Earth creationist and you convinced them that the Earth was 4.5 billion years old, but then they still didn't believe in dinosaurs, right? So they insufficiently revised their belief. You could say something like that. I'm just being silly. I don't want to insult anybody who's Christian, but
Well, the example given, there are two book bags, one containing 700 red and 300 blue chips, the other containing 300 red and 700 blue chips. Take one of the bags. Now you sample randomly replacement after each chip. In 12 samples, you get 8 reds and 4 blues. What's the probability of the predominantly red bag?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
so
if you
use
gain
that.
new information but you insufficiently revise your belief, you're going to be fallacious.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of a real world example of this. Can anybody help me here? The book pack one made sense, but I'm just trying to think of one that would be in everyday life, like maybe with UFOs or something, maybe UAPs.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe something even related to like Twitter, right?
Yeah, you could do
That
that.
people can relate to.
Well, I mean, you could take in information just like first time, well, I'm going to revise my belief because, this is supposedly new evidence, but it's insufficient. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say that conservatism bias is just being too conservative when you're trying to revise a belief. Like you're holding too much to to the old, not what's the word, to the obsolete,
Yes.
and not willing to take the new.
Yeah. It's,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
there's also
Prioritizing past over present.
these are all anchoring biases, which is the anchoring conservatism bias is a type of anchoring bias, and it says the anchoring bias is the tendency to rely too heavily on one trait or piece of information when making decisions. So focusing too hard, on one trait or piece of information when making decisions. Usually the first piece of information acquired on that subject. Law of the instrument. An over-reliance on a familiar tool of methods, ignoring or undervaluing alternative approaches. Oh, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's the law of the instrument. Y'all have heard that one, haven't you?
You know what my favorite bias is, and the like one I see everywhere, and sort of like gets under my skin for weirdly enough, is
What's that?
the black and white fallacy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's got to be this or this, this or this.
False dichotomy shit, yeah.
God damn it, man!
Is that on here? Is that on the list, or is it a different term?
That is like a cognitive bias, of the 50-50 cognitive bias. I don't know what it would actually be labeled on here, but
Gotcha.
it's yeah.
Yeah, it is the black and white fallacy is what that's called. I just don't know what it's called in a bias, in bias terminology.
Is black and white just basically it's either this or that? There's no middle ground.
Correct.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a human psychology idea of just like kind of like a need to categorize things for basic safety or understanding. I wonder why we commit that so much.
It's a rough one. You see it so much, so many places. It's crazy.
Can you give like an example, Scott, of like what you experience? Is it like politically usually, or is it?
No, like even people is like people would be like, you either like raw, you either like your steak medium rare, or you don't.
Right.
You know, like people do it all the time. Like start thinking about any time in somebody in your life says it has to be this or this.
Yeah.
There's
No,
no middle
definitely.
ground. It's like it's got to be this or this, or it can't be. It's
Right.
crazy.
It's called the false dilemma fallacy. The either or
Nice.
fallacy is what it's called.
Either
And
or,
the black and
okay.
white fallacy. So
There's a fallacy that annoys me much more than that. The middle ground fallacy.
Of course it would, Mace. It's awesome.
nice.
That
Hey,
wasn't a
Swaggy.
joke. Honestly, that one pisses me off way more than the
Yeah.
one you were just talking about.
What's
So
like?
go-
What's
so
an
go ahead,
example?
explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's an example of middle
Uh,
ground?
It means that you claim that both sides are kind of right. The truth must be in the middle. So, for example, one person says 1 + 1 = 2. Another person says 1 + 1 = 3. The middle ground fallacy is saying, I think the correct answer is somewhere between 2 and 3.
Yeah,
the
that's
middle
what
ground.
the middle ground fallacy is.
It
Faux
is,
show.
I think it's
Mace, I take it you're not a Taoist.
What's that?
That's
So
the yin
religion.
and yang, the one with the black fish and the white fish next to each other.
It's
Never heard
the
of it.
black circle inside the white circle.
Also
and then
referred to as
the yin yang?
Taoism, I think.
Taoism, yeah, the
Yeah,
yin and
Taoism, Taoism, same thing. Same
Okay.
thing.
Mace, you know what a yin yang is, right?
A yo-yo? Yeah, it's a toy.
You know that circle that's black and white and kind of looks like fish objects that are symmetrical with each other with a hole.
He's messing with you, Perry.
Okay, shit.
So I did want to say though the middle ground, also known as the false compromise argument from the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that one specifically does come down to if it's a false compromise or if it's a false middle ground. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that there's middle ground, but it's a
So is
fake
that a
one.
bias or a fallacy?
It is called the false compromise. It's a fallacy. It says the fallacy that the truth is supposedly always a compromise between two opposing positions.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
of course it's not always going to be the case, all right?
yeah.
So that would be the fallacy. Is to
Also,
assume that it would
Scott,
be.
it was Georg Cantor, the mathematician that I was thinking of, if that rings
It
any bells.
Yep.
Dal, did you want to say something about Taoism?
But I think,
Dao Su?
well, Thomas, you want to invite Mace up or not? But Jenny's waiting too as
Oh,
well.
Jenny's waiting. Okay. Yeah. I don't want too many speakers, but yeah, I'll invite Mace up. Come on. I got to keep it low because last time I had like 9 and I got in trouble.
Mace will say something like once an hour. So Mace, keep
No, I'm not worried about Mace
you-
himself. I just don't want a crowd.
I
I don't
heard
want to
Mace's
crowd that up
voice
here
and I
too
thought
much.
it was God or something speaking.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's up,
Mace's
Jenny?
Mace's position was very Christian. There's a scripture in Revelations that says, "So then, because thou art lukewarm, and
Yeah,
neither
spit you out of
cold
the mouth stuff. Yeah.
nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth."
Yeah.
So it's a very, very Christian trope.
Right. So that means God likes the law of non-contradiction. I'm down with that.
He doesn't want us wishy-washy.
I'm just playing with you.
No
Um,
lukewarm Christians.
Do you have you ever looked into cognitive biases, Jenny?
You know, I haven't heard that term for so long. I was listening to your definitions, and I
Mhm.
agree. I agree with what was said, and I admit.
Well, I mean, none of us
I'm
are perfect. We've
cognitively
all got
biased.
these.
Yes.
None of us.
Voices that you can pick up, but maybe necessarily they can't.
I think probably the most telling recently is just this mass formation psychosis around COVID, and I really believe that's a thing. And you've just seen all of these people looking at evidence right in front of their faces, even in their own families, where the vaccine has caused damage, and they're looking at it and they're not seeing it.
Yeah, it's
So-
this thing how politicized it's gotten.
I don't care about the politicization of it. I just wish people could see the truth. A lot of people are being damaged by the vaccines.
See, that's what we were also going to talk about next is apophenia. So apophenia is a class of cognitive biases that is the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. So that is a lot of problems with people who have issues with conspiracy theories and conspiratorial line drawing, those types of thinking, like clustering illusions and pareidolia. That's a cause for a lot of problems in society and a lot of the really big conspiracy theories that kind of go around the world and in the underground. So have you, Scott, have you looked into apophenia, Perry?
I have, yeah.
I'm reading
Yeah.
some of the examples right now.
Mm-hmm.
See if I can think of one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't want to go too hard on Jenny. I like her.
No, it's the super pattern recognition. Oh, we lost Jenny. Whoops.
Yeah,
Sorry, Jenny. I didn't mean to overtalk you or anything. You can come back anytime. But
yeah. I mean, a lot of that, a lot of like the anti-vax stuff comes initially from a guy named Andrew Wakefield. This happened in the '90s. At that time, it was sort of strange. Like what I saw personally was a lot of the people who like ended up being like anti-vax right out of the gate were these like really hardcore like hippy dippy kind of people, like,
mhm.
and then all of a sudden, once COVID happened, like it just sort of like blew up. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. Here's an actual big event where you have a virus that's capable of doing significant amount of damage. You know, when people were comparing this, they were comparing it to like the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed like
Deadly.
30% of the world population. 30 fucking percent. Can you imagine that? Like, and that was 100 years ago. You know, so right when this thing starts popping up, people like are obviously freaking out for good reason. Spanish flu was the same kind of virus as this one, very very similar. So people were, you know, the experts were a little bit concerned to say the least. You know, but I think if you look at just the overall efficacy of vaccines in the period that we've had vaccines, but it seems they've saved far more lives than they've ever caused problems for.
Exactly. I think that's
we have to have a critical mass of the population to be immunized so that we can have herd immunity.
Yep.
That's a weird though. I didn't realize that that's when the, like you said, the hippy dippy Scott of the early '90s. That's a weird like combining of communities.
It really
You know,
is.
whether it's the extreme hippie community or extreme, I don't say extreme religious, but just like the portion of religious community that are potentially very anti-vax, where it's like, how do those two on the other end of the spectrum, like, you know, come together on it? And maybe it's just the, you know, obviously the concern of like injecting yourself with certain, you know, chemicals and what those chemicals will do. I think that's a legit concern most people have.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. It's really bizarre how sometimes those groups, you know, who otherwise have nothing in common,
Right.
come together.
Well, like what I find sort of interesting, I see it as this strong apprehension towards authority, right? So hippies are really like anti-authority, but conservative Christians are anti-authority other than their conservative Christianity, right? So any other authority that encroaches on that is to be looked at suspiciously right off the bat. You know, so like these two things combined in a really weird way. It's interesting. Yeah.
Perry, go ahead, bud.
So reading these three definitions,
Yep.
I would say that religion is often tied to at least the illusory
Yes.
correlation and
Yes.
pareidolia. Is that how it's pronounced?
Pareidolia. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you see something that you really
You want to
don't
read
think
that
should
illusory
happen.
correlation for the
Yeah.
audience?
A tendency to inaccurately perceive a relationship between two unrelated events. So, and then pareidolia, a tendency to perceive a vague and random stimulus, often an image, as significant. Seeing animals or faces in the cloud, man on the moon, hearing non-existent hidden messages.
Hearing
etc.
voices in the fan. Has that ever happened to you guys?
Oh yeah. Or just
Me
random
too, bro.
noises around the house.
Yep.
That's like the AC unit or whatever.
Yep.
And they think that the laws of nature are suspended and it's got to be God. And so that's it. You know, it's like that solidified their whatever. And so, you know, it's God for the rest of their life now. But surely it's, you know, outside of religion as well. There's trying to think of a good one that's not religiously bound.
The problem with apophenia is that you can literally draw a line between basically two unrelated things anytime you want to, by some standard that you're arbitrarily coming up with, right?
Yeah, you're presupposing it already.
Yeah, so the illusory correlation is saying you're looking at a relationship between two unrelated things. You know what I mean? So you're forming that relationship mentally in your mind that these two unrelated events are actually, they really connect and they matter to each other when they don't. You know what I mean?
So UFOs, I'm sure.
That could be a part of it. Yeah, you could have a UFO example. You could
Not
have
saying that we haven't.
Fun for you, Perry. I have exploding head syndrome. Do you know what that is? You ever heard of
No
this?
idea. It sounds terrible though.
It's really not as bad as how it sounds. Basically, what happens is sometimes when you're falling asleep, your brain sends a signal that sounds like a noise, and it sounds like like this, like
Yeah,
fucking like your head's
I've had
exploding
that
for a
before.
second.
I've had
Yeah,
that
like
before
right.
for sure.
So if somebody's like a true believer, they could hear that and be like, "Oh man, like I was just falling asleep. I heard this sound. Like it woke me up. It was real. I experienced it. That is
Right.
Mm-hmm.
bad, right,
I've had that before. It's kind of crazy, and it's like it really
dude?
wakes you up all of a sudden, and you're not sleepy anymore.
Yep, yeah, but it happens. Like it's not something that typically happens to people all the time. It comes in like waves, and you'll have it occasionally over a couple month
Do you
period.
have it chronically, or is it just occasionally, like you said?
Just occasionally, but like
Yeah.
I've had it for a while, and like
That sucks.
yeah, there's certain times when I'm falling asleep and I just hear this like it sounds like a circuit breaker or like the
Yep.
electric box outside your house.
Have you
Just
guys ever
blowing.
had sleep paralysis?
No, I've not.
Okay, it's not
Where
fun.
you
Let's
just
not talk
like
about it.
can't move.
Yeah, you
I had
can't
it.
move,
I had
but
it
you're like
once.
you're in like a semi-awake state, but you can't
Yeah.
move. It's weird and it's
Um,
scary.
I've been
Oh.
super tired trying to wake up and move, and I can't move.
Yeah, it's
But
like
it
that.
seems like that's something different, though.
It's a little different because when you're in the sleep paralysis, you're still technically you're not dreaming, but you're coming out of REM. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why people say they see shadows in the room and all this kind of stuff. And they've even gone so far as to say that they see witches in the room, that there's a witch on their chest, and it feels like you should look up all the different sleep paralysis
It's got
stories
to be
out
a
there. It's
witch, man.
crazy.
It's got to be a witch.
It's crazy, or it's some Babadook or something like that. Go ahead, Brett.
That correlation that you were just, what was the word again?
Pareidolia?
Illusory correlation.
No, the A word.
Apophenia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the connecting things, right? Like,
Seeing patterns where there are no patterns.
yeah, that to me was most disturbing about, the right wing fall down the rabbit hole of Pizzagate and Hillary eating babies and stuff like that. Because I could understand any person's perspective on the political spectrum about frustration, about manufacturing
Fucking
jobs going to
Pizzagate, bro.
China, like about, inflation, about cost of housing, about hypocrisy with the Democrats and not, like
Yeah.
really, getting health care for people, other stuff
But
like that.
Pizzagate,
But
I mean, come on,
Yeah,
guys.
it's
I
like, it's just like the fact that QAnon like literally took on a thing and people literally believed that to like the nth degree. And it was just,
I
it just
do have a
shows you that
question
the
for you.
internet, like the internet's not always for good.
Yeah,
Maybe the
but
internet
Yes.
isn't a
Yeah.
great thing.
Go ahead, Scott.
I do have a question for you, Brett. Though, so like, do you know any conservative people in your day to day life? Were they into that as well? Because I mean, like to me, I guess I see this as the same thing. Like I see all like the conservative side of the crazy with the Pizzagate, but then you also
Mm.
see like the liberal crazy with whatever's going on. Like no matter what happens, it always seems to be on Twitter. Everybody acts like this is how everybody
Yeah.
is, but like like I just don't see that as the case from either side.
I,
Me personally,
I knew a couple of people that were legitimately into the QAnon Pizzagate. They weren't
Pizzagate.
all the way down the rabbit hole, but they had gone a little ways to where I kind of started thinking to myself, like, is this guy for real? Like, is
So,
he really just started doing
so this is
psychedelics or
where
something?
apophenia gets us, right?
Yeah.
The thing about tripping too, like people come out of it thinking is they've met like entities and things like that, and I've been told, well, you haven't tripped hard enough. I've never entities tripping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Has anybody met entities?
Me and you are in the same boat. When you're tripping, you're tripping. It's not like you're not.
With any entities, I promise. I promise. At least I don't think I am. We need to be able to see patterns. We need to be able to recognize them and see, like, I mean, hell, your job is that. You could make those patterns become conspiratorial, couldn't you?
You absolutely could. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so
I think
I can say
You're good.
it's
my
so
bad.
funny that you mentioned that because we at work on erroneous links, and we sent one out, and this guy he clicked on it, and it's been stuck in his craw for 3 days, and he comes to me like multiple times. He's like, you got hit with the phishing campaign. Chill out, But in his own head, fucking wild.
That's the thing, is that they don't realize that bias is taking over. When somebody's been offended, or always jump to the fact that there's some conspiracy against them or against the populace that is causing them.
All intents and purposes, he's a very highly educated engineer. He's a highly educated engineer.
Yes.
No, I was kind of laughing whenever y'all were talking about like heard the noise. I'm like, oh, I think that was God.
I wasn't trying to make it sound like that. I don't want to offend any
No, but
religious
there
believers
are
in here.
There are people like that.
There are people like that. That's what I was gonna say. Is that that stupid noise they hear is something like trying to mess with them? That's like super spiritual. Where it's like people are like, what color pen do I use? I mean, that's everything. Do I wear the red shirt? Do I take a right turn?
There are people out there that, is that what that's called?
Now, yeah. It's like, okay, come on now. Like, God gave us a brain too, to make these decisions. I mean, can you imagine how annoying it would be for a kid? And every time right before they make a simple decision, they ask you weird.
Yeah, that'd be pretty brutal.
But yeah, so
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, however, I do believe in the spiritual realm.
Right.
And I do believe that there are spirits where basically it's like a spirit takes on the form like deceased. And those things can kind of mess with people's heads and stuff.
Do you believe in the paranormal? I'm sorry, Daniel. Do you believe in the?
I believe in the. I believe that there's beings of light and beings of darkness. So wherever the ghost falls in the category for that.
Yeah, I don't even know how that. I don't have definitions. Rude or anything.
No.
I just don't know what that means.
Some people think that ghosts are people that have died and are set that is addressed to is like.
What is that realm? I guess is what I'm asking.
Like, well, for some reason.
What?
But yeah, it was basically a place that people went before Jesus came and died. From according to the Bible, I'm telling y'all, I'm just translating.
Womb? Is that what you said?
No, Abraham's bosom.
Abraham's bosom. Okay, I don't know why I thought Aaron's.
I will say, Daniel, I don't think that's actually. Well, I think what you're getting to is more of like, who is it? Dante's Nine Circles of Hell.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno is when that whole idea came about.
Yeah.
if you pull up, I know. Well, it is in the Hebrew text. If you pull up
Yeah.
a Bible app and search Aaron's bosom, it will pop up.
Yeah.
And you can kind of read about it. It's basically like a place, where
Is
it's
it
not
is
really
it
heaven
Aaron?
or
I'm
hell.
sorry, Daniel. Is it Aaron's bosom or Abraham's bosom? Which one?
Abraham's bosom.
Abraham's bosom. Okay, I will look it up.
Yeah, yeah. Check it out. But I mean, I do think that I could get really deep. I'm sure y'all don't want to hear all about it,
Well, we want
but
to kind of try to stay around cognitive biases, but I don't mind
Yeah.
you going on a tangent. You can entertain us for a second here.
well, I'm gonna tell y'all why. I mean, because I believe that the Bible is true. Now, I do believe that some things are metaphorical. I do think that some things are poetic. I believe that some things are literal, but not the whole Bible is to be taken literal because it's not all written literally.
Okay.
But I do believe in Revelation where it talks about, Lucifer
Daniel, come on
wanting
up
to
to speak.
rise up.
Come on up to speak, Daniel.
Oh,
This is the last. This is the last speaker I'm taking. I want Jenny to be able to speak too. Go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry.
okay, cool. Yeah, thanks.
You're
But
welcome.
basically it was like Lucifer wanted to raise up and be like God or be, have authority like him. And he deceived one third of the angels. It was a mighty warring. Michael and the angels prevailed, kicked the Satan and his angels out of heaven, and this is where they landed. Now, we see good and evil happening all the time. And if you believe in spiritual, then, it kind of makes, to me, it makes more sense because it's just some things just can't be explained, like
Well,
how
I'll
people
agree with you
go on
there.
these, yeah, like how people get to these extremes and things like that. But I do believe that Satan is mad because he doesn't even have a position. I believe that God created us and put us here to have dominion
All right,
over him.
Daniel.
But
We're gonna get back to subject here in a second, but go ahead. Just
okay, yeah, well, that was basically it. Yeah, that was I believe what my main point is. I believe that there is a realm that we can't see. I do believe that. I
okay.
think that it explains quite a bit of what is going on in the world and how people behave according to human nature
So,
without
so
any
would you
laws.
say that there is a spiritual realm and that there is a physical realm? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah,
Okay.
and,
Okay.
and I believe that they do interact.
They do
I
interact.
do
Okay.
I do believe that the spiritual realm is powerful enough to interact with the physical. I do believe
Okay.
that, and I'm
Would you
not saying
say
that
that
every
spiritual and supernatural are kind of the same thing in that instance? So you could say supernatural realm or spiritual realm, and that's the same thing?
I refer to them. Yeah, I refer to them as being the same thing. Like
Okay.
supernatural to me means beyond
Yeah, above
naturalism.
the natural. Yeah, I got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so here's the thing. If we could ever show that anything was actually supernatural, wouldn't it then just become natural?
I
Like
don't know.
let's say
It would depend on the capabilities of it.
well, yeah, it would depend on the capabilities. I mean, every scientist in the world wants God to interact with reality, like put his fingers into reality, and then we can measure that, and now we can measure miracles. You know what I mean? That's
Right,
just not the
right.
way it's going to work. I understand that, but anything that we would ever find to be that we thought there are some things in the past that we thought were supernatural, like lightning and shit like that, and now that we know that they're not. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
And that goes right back to thinking that there's a ghost in the house, but it was really just the lamp fell over.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. I'm not completely ruling out the paranormal. I'm just saying I don't have any good reason to believe it yet. You know what I mean?
no, that's fine. It's kind of it is. I'm not. I'm gonna give it to you. Like, it's hard for the natural mind to receive it. Because we can only like our thoughts are limited, and for us to try to understand something outside of us without that something outside
I
of
see.
us
I
giving
see
us
what you mean.
an understanding.
I really do
Yeah.
follow you.
Oh well,
Let's get.
awesome, man.
No, 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 Daniel. I'm not rushing you off. I just got 8 people to talk to, so I'm
Hey,
trying to
go
jump
ahead,
around.
man. Go
No,
ahead.
you're
I
good, brother.
appreciate
Daniel,
you.
I appreciate you always coming and hanging out with us. Jenny,
Awesome,
did you
man.
want to say something before I jump back on the old cognitive bias train?
Yeah, I think when I dropped the term mass formation psychosis, it was assumed that I was talking about anti-vaxxers. I wasn't. I put a couple of links in the chat. There's a researcher over in Europe who has written a book about mass formation psychosis, specifically talking about
Okay.
those who have blindly accepted and believed the vaccine protocols are doing anybody any good.
Can you
So
say
that's what I was
again, mass
talking
what?
about.
Mass what?
Mass formation psychosis.
Formation
And
psychosis.
there's a short video that describes what it is, and then this book. And I am someone who, when I heard the Pizzagate story, I immediately believed it and quickly started following the Q drops and then the proofs that came out on President Trump's Twitter feed. And
Okay.
so if you click over to my biography, you can see all the things that I use to describe myself. One of them is just Q, because I believe in Q. And so I
Okay.
just wanted you to know that you were talking to one of those notorious anti-vaxxer Q people who buys into Pizzagate. Just FYI.
I don't think people who follow conspiracy theories are insane. Not all. I think there are very intelligent, rational, critical thinking people who fall into conspiracy theories. Now, does that mean that I think every conspiracy is not real and it's fake? No, there are obviously going to be some conspiracies out there that are actually being perpetrated, but it's going to be a small number of them that ever actually come to fruition because that's just the nature of a conspiracy. They are rare.
Well,
You know what I mean? So,
I was part of the Reddit Pizzagate group back in the day before it was kicked off Reddit.
okay.
And then we quickly reformed on Facebook, and I was one of the oldest and largest research group that was on Facebook. We were kicked off of that over a year ago. And so I've spent a lot of time on this topic.
Yeah.
And so, I just want you to know that there's someone in the room who believes my share on the elites and their devotion to Satan.
I was going to
Scott's got something
say,
to say.
so
Let's Scott jump.
how do you make the determination between spending a lot of time thinking about something and like realizing that you can rationalize your way into a lot of different modes of thought? If you spend a lot of time thinking about it, you can rationalize your way there. Does that make it rational? Right? I mean, with these grand conspiracies, is because people were caught, right? And then
Yes.
that's the differentiation between if you used to they used to put that in tablet, you'd see in grocery stores all the time. Somebody saw Elvis in Tennessee.
When WikiLeaks dropped the DNC emails, I went and read them within days of them being put on the internet. And so from those drops, I grabbed screenshots in those email exchanges. And what became apparent quickly is that time in pedophile circles of how you talk about being children. And so why were these DNC hacks like John Podesta talking in code? Tony Podesta too. And so there were a lot of
It's like, are you taking the hot dog to Pound Town, or
I'll get a graphic of it and share it in the chat.
The big thing is to always remember that sources aren't perfect, and I guess my question would be, and I do want to get back to cognitive biases. Go ahead, Honheim.
I was going to say, if it wasn't for the vaccine, my partner and I would probably be dead now. And if anyone does millions of people research now, showing
Man, you can't.
thousands of people research I hadn't,
That's medical advice.
if I, yeah, can I speak, Macy?
No.
So I just said, okay.
Time you're doing it wrong. Like with Macy, like, yes, I'm telling you right now to take a vaccine.
Oh, it's not a.
It was factually proven that COVID killed him. And, you know,
Yeah.
I don't like, again, I understand the history of concerns about what vaccines are used for and how they're used to sterilize people and other things of that nature. But this is what I would argue about, Jenny, to the point you were making about Q and the other stuff. You take some points that might be rational on portions of society that have become corrupted. You know, they're full of money interests, and they, you know, are not. It's where the system is become untrustworthy to a non-democratic process, to where it goes down to say that Democrats are lizard people, which is absolutely absurd. And so
There are many
the
people who believe in reptilians.
Yeah, but again, like, this is the point I was trying to make earlier, is that the spectrum of thought of what the general population believes is to be rational is extended each time, to where I have to explain to my students that no, the earth is not flat. Like, and some of them legitimately will ask me that, and I'm just astounded that I have to, you know, that's something we have to debate in society. We can debate the efficiency of vaccines and the effects afterwards. I think that's a really important thing, especially if they're going into kids and whatnot. But like Hohenheim was saying, like, there's factual evidence that people who were going to face COVID, if they were not vaccinated and they had pre-existing conditions, that you were rolling the dice. And yeah, my student's dad rolled the dice and he died. Like, straight
That
up.
sucks,
Granted,
man.
he had
That
he had other conditions with it, but you know, that's a reality which I wish people knew that that's, you know,
I understand.
I'm really
it's
sorry
real.
for your loss. That's really terrible, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and like I said, I'm trying to, you know, I'm doing the, like May said, he hates the middle ground, but I understand the concern about vaccine injections, but you know, this is where the media does not do us a service, where we only look at our own sources, and you know, cognitive bias, like Thomas is saying, is even furthered. So
I would say look to the scientific consensus. Look to what the data has shown in terms of vaccine proficiency and efficiency, and then make your decisions off of that. I would not make my decisions off of what Q told me or what anybody like Jenny McCarthy tells me. I would take my questions about this to the scientific community, and I would look into do vaccines cause autism? Are vaccines ploys by the government to put chips in us? I mean, all these different things have been covered, and yeah, there's a lot of shitty information on the internet, but you have to learn how to source your information and find good sources to get your information from. You know what I mean? And
Can I
that's a
respond?
problem too. Sure, Daniel, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying and everything, and it's like, I agree with you, like, based off the statistics, like, what do the statistics say? You know, what are the effects? What are the chances of success?
Well,
And
I mean, bro, we don't have polio now. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they have a fucking vaccine for it. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
what I was
Polio
gonna
was
say
killing
was,
kids left and right in the early 1900s, and now we don't
Thomas,
have it
yeah,
anymore.
Thomas,
yeah, what
I
I
hate
was
Right?
gonna
be the
say
one to tell
was,
you this, but there was a case in New York.
Oh, there really
Like,
was?
literally,
Yeah,
we almost eradicated it, and then it
Damn.
got down to Southeast Asia. I followed this because my dad was in Rotary,
No, I
which
believe you. I didn't
Rotary,
know that.
yeah. So like,
Damn. So it's almost gone
it's
though,
not.
right?
I don't know if it's spread in New York. I'd have to follow up on that, but it's been obviously severely restricted. But we almost
Yeah.
had it gone, and again, like
What
it
was
got
the
to
one
Southeast Asia.
was it smallpox that we killed completely, or
Yeah.
is it still
Yeah.
around too?
No, it's smallpox, and there are still like samples of it that
Okay.
are in
So the
lockdown.
vaccine keeps it down to an extremely low level. You know what I
Well,
mean? I
and see,
guess.
what I was going to say was the thing to be concerned about is whenever there is an outbreak of a pestilence that happens, and there are no statistics yet. So basically, like the infection's spreading, and we have nothing to compare the success rate to. We're just kind of like their lab rats to see if
Well,
this really works.
that is true in some cases, I would imagine. But in terms of the COVID vaccine, the entire scientific community was put on halt, and they all basically worked on that one problem. You know what I mean? At least that was all that was federally funded anyway. So
Yeah,
that's
I think
why
it had
that's
been
why it was so
out for a little
rapidly
while.
processed.
Dude, well, there are plenty that are successful, right? Like, how many kids do you know who have whooping cough anymore?
There you go. Or tuberculosis, right?
Yeah, like kids used to die from whooping cough.
Yep.
How many kids do you hear of having whooping cough anymore? Show me one.
Thomas, I dropped those pedophile codes in the chat.
Okay. Okay. Let's see what we got here.
I put it on my Substack, so it's easier to
Oh, I see.
click over.
Pedocodes, Healthy Families, Substack.com. Okay, good. Thank you. And I will check that out. So I am not one of those people that says every single conspiracy is fake. I mean, the forming of the U.S. government, the conspiracy against the British government to form the United States was a conspiracy. You know what I mean? So I understand that it's not ridiculous to ask these questions. It's just most conspiracies are going to be bogus. A real conspiracy is rare. That's my big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just based on statistics alone, a lot of the fringe is going to believe in conspiracy theories or conspiracy. What do you want to call it? I don't know the right word. Maybe I'm explaining it
No,
not as well
it's
as I
like
should be.
conspiracy fictionalities or something, right? So it's a
Yeah.
nice story to tell, right?
Well, it's kind of like think about it this way: if we faked the moon landing, I read this the other day. If we faked the moon landing, it would literally only take 3 years to unravel, and it would involve keeping like 400,000 people quiet. You know what I mean? So it would unravel in a few years. So like most of these big conspiracies would fall apart in less than a couple of years if they were big ones. Think of another one. I mean, the moon landing is just one. What's another one? I don't know. Shit. I know 9/11's a big one, but that doesn't necessarily fit the
I mean,
example.
I guess the biggest
JFK.
JFK
Yeah,
is the biggest
JFK.
one
There you
of
go.
all time in U.S. history, I guess.
Yeah. JFK is one. How many people, if it was a plot by the U.S. government to seize power or whatever the hell people think it was, uh, that's the problem with proportionality bias. Another cognitive bias, real quick, Daniel. I'm sorry. Proportionality bias is the tendency to think that big events are started by big causes, when really sometimes, or at least most of the time, big events are big because we people make them big. They usually have small causes. You know what I mean? So that's a proportionality bias that we all fall prey to. What were you gonna say, Brett? I'm
And
sorry.
could you relate that? Could you obviously relate that back again to the A word that I can't remember, where people
Apophenia.
see patterns where they're, yeah. And this is the point and I wasn't, Jenny, I know you're down the listers now. I wasn't trying to sound aggressive with my point earlier, but like, I'm really concerned about where we have our subjective experience. And again, take those two words there, apophenia, and then the other one you just mentioned,
Pareidolia.
where yeah, where we get onto the internet and people make claims about things. And because it's so hard to distinguish, true sources from, some person who is just, someone like Alex Jones, who is very, very aggressive with the points that he makes. And yet how many of the points that he has made have been proven to be false?
His sourcing is notoriously and infamously bad, though. You know what I mean? His
Yeah.
sourcing is based on hot takes that he gets from around the country. So,
but because he uses pathos in such an angry way, he riles up the feelings that people have at times. And so literally people believe that Sandy Hook was a staged government thing, that the government is so terrible that to take away guns, they would do that with those children.
yeah.
And then it's like that again, our spectrum of what is trying to relate as to what is real versus what is the two words. I'm sorry, I should have wrote them down.
Apophenia and pareidolia.
Apophenia and pareidolia. I'm really concerned about how like that those two get paired together, and then it's like it doesn't become a thing of like let's factually go through the information. People have tribalized so badly that there is no factual information. It's what is the loudest, most angry, and that's where I think, again, not to sound cheesy, but the political spectrum on both sides, on the far ends of the extremism, one side says communism, the other one says, Christian theocracy or whatever you would have on the right. And they're both insane. Those perspectives don't.
That might be a false dichotomy, but I'm with you. I do follow you.
Yeah. And I could be wrong. And again, someone.
Well, I would just say too far. I would say too far left.
But...
I'm sorry, Brett. My bad. There's a delay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say too far left is anarchy. Too far right is theocracy. That would be a little bit more.
That's exactly, and that's my point. Is I understand again the concerns about injecting your body with certain chemicals and the effects they have because of the history of what that's done to certain populations. I understand the corruption in both of the political parties where money and, we've seen like with the Me Too movement of, sexualization, people, just terrible
people
stuff.
Don't trust the media. People don't trust the media.
Exactly.
They don't trust the politicians. They don't trust anybody. So,
but where do we pull
for good
the
reason
brakes?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Where do we pull the brakes where we're then debating things down Alice's rabbit hole, which are just a person's lost in almost, I don't want to say a paranoia, but they're lost in their own perspective of reality being the only
You're talking about the
fact.
tinfoil hat people, right?
I don't know if I'm necessarily talking about tinfoil hat. It's more of the, like I said, the combination of the two terms where so much of the population refuses to acknowledge that there is factual, truthful evidence, objective evidence on the other side or another portion of the spectrum. And so extremism leads to more extremism.
Okay.
It's like a perpetually, the spectrum gets farther and farther apart.
Yeah, it falls into tribalism and in social psychology, the in groups and the out groups and how they function sociologically. Yeah, I'm with you, bro.
And in every historical society, Nazi Germany, the partition of India with 1 million dead Hindus and Muslims with Gandhi around 1947. This tribalism doesn't end well.
Yeah, we know,
and that's
or at least I know. I'm a liberal fuck, so
yeah. I'm not trying to preach on that. It's something I'm very passionate about because I see ideas every day that kids from many different backgrounds will ask me about certain questions, and it sometimes messes with my mind a little bit that certain things are taken as seriously as gravity.
Well, I mean, you have to teach kids every day, so your perspective is so much different than any besides Hohenheim, which I think he wanted to respond a minute ago. Let's let him jump in real quick, Brett. Hohenheim, jump in.
Sure.
I was just going to respond to Mace, and then I don't know whether I've offended you or something. It seems like you're a bit hot in your show, and then now it seems like two. So I'm sorry, if I done something there. Just going to respond that you can give medical advice, and I think you gave me some incredible medical advice about not using my phone when I'm driving. So I really do take that seriously, and thank you for that. And I'm going to change quite seriously how I use my
That's
phone
not
when I'm driving
medical
from now on.
advice. Telling someone to not use their phone while driving is not medical advice.
I would say it is. I would say it is.
Well, either way,
As well as
you can't blanket statement say everyone listening to this, if you haven't had the vaccine, you need to go and get it, because some people actually shouldn't get the vaccine.
no, I said people with comorbidities.
Yeah, there are some people with comorbidities who doctors would advise not to get the vaccine because for some people the vaccine is dangerous.
And then the doctors will tell them that when they go to the hospital, you can't just go to the street and buy a vaccine. So, yeah, that will happen at the hospital. I'm not recommending to people go and buy vaccine from the street vendor. So the doctor will tell them when they go to hospital. I think the recommendation, what I would say as well, it is medical advice telling people to not use their phones while driving, also not to drink poison. There's all sorts of medical advice that are handed out by normal people every day. So,
How is telling you to turn your phone off medical advice? I don't understand.
because you could crash and die, and that would affect you fairly severely medically.
Yeah, that's not medical. That's driving advice or life advice.
Life advice. It was life advice, not medical advice.
No.
Okay, disagreement then.
It's like don't change a light bulb while the light is switched on. That's not medical advice.
I would say it's medical advice. I'd say anything that helps you survive is medical advice. So that's just my difference in
All
definition.
right. How about this? Don't look that man in the eye. Is that medical advice?
If that man is predisposed to killing people who look him in the eye, then yes, I would say it is.
If it has health implications, then it's medical advice. So not.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you can even tell someone not to look at your phone because you're looking at it for 8 hours a day when it's 5 inches away from your face, and your eye doctor says don't do that. I mean, if it has health implications, then it's
driving.
I mean,
while using your phone is dangerous to your health.
Driving,
surely. Driving whilst looking at your phone is dangerous to your health, and this medical advice Mace gave me, which I think is.
I would argue that yes, it is bad for your health to do that, potentially even mentally, because I mean, I guess you could say anything could be mentally for mental health.
Driving. Look at the amount of diseases truck drivers have for driving 14 hours a day. Driving is absolutely not great for your health.
Yeah.
Like for long and extended periods of time.
Oh yeah.
So, but Brett, what would you say about, looking at your phone, that single mechanism while driving? Would you consider that a health implication or medical?
I mean, I might go back to what Honenheim said, about like the potential to crash and the effect it can have on your health. But overall with the phone, I would say, just the overall
because
use.
Possible consequences of poor health is
addiction.
Health implication. Yeah, I mean that's why doctors.
Yeah,
I mean I think that's the main reason why doctors give the advice that they do, to either treat a current mishap or to avoid possible consequences. But I wanted to hopefully maybe steer this back to cognitive bias. Or
you may do so.
I mean, I didn't have anything in particular. I guess one thing that I wanted to say.
I was just going to go through them and see which ones that we could find that people have done to us on media.
Yeah, I mean,
politicians
with apophenia and conspiracy. Let me stop walking. I would make some sort of WebMD psychology, saying that people get some kind of positive feeling toward the idea of conspiracy, and that seed, if that's the seed that is planted when you're presented with this information, you will be more likely, because of that positive feeling that you have, to possibly believe it. So
Yeah.
I was wondering
I'm
if
sure there's
anyone
a
else had.
dopamine. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
there's a
right.
dopamine response involved in thinking that you have esoteric knowledge of something that no one else has, you know, or that very few people have. I can imagine that.
So I mean, this is kind of a psychology of everything, because you could, in a way, pose that every decision you make obviously is based on some sort of psychology that is
Oh yeah, it's
perhaps
all it's all
integrated
based on our
with.
thoughts and feelings. That's where it all comes from initially.
So apophenia and contradictions are kind of correlated words for me.
I got you. That illusory correlation in the pareidolia and apophenia, all three of those together are the reasons why we fall into that pattern recognition machine and get confused. You know what I mean?
And I could be apathenic thinking that those two things are correlated. So
Yeah, it
I'm
gets a bit
skeptical,
paradoxical, doesn't it?
but I'm skeptical, and I admit that I'm skeptical. So does skepticism kind of play as an antidote to some of this cognitive bias that we
Yeah, I
are
mean,
just
skepticism is what helps us to avoid fallacies. You know, skepticism is going on while we're. Some people aren't aware of their biases, and then, you know, I try to be aware of my biases, but I can't be aware of all of them. You know what I mean? So
Can you
it's
be
a
biased
practice.
towards skepticism because towards skepticism? And is that a fallacy?
I am biased towards
Is that a
skepticism
logical
because I
fallacy?
want my inner. Well, the only reason I'm biased towards skepticism is my inner conceptual reality to match the outer objective reality, right? As best I can. So that's the reason why. So
Why am I so bad at being a skeptic of my own deep ideas or cognitive biases? I realize I can sit down, obviously, and like try to go through them. Some of their ideas, because of how much information we're intaking, like how bad we are at doing it often, you know? Like
confirmation
what's
bias.
the meat of
Because
that? Why
That's what confirmation is all about. Tendency to search for and interpret.
Criteria.
is it
Yeah.
like a safety thing, do you think?
I mean,
Or is it
confirmation
like
bias definitely was a
In some
safety thing when we
cases,
were, you know, on the plains of
yeah, that's
Africa.
what I and that's how many things I wonder. Like I also said earlier about how much go back to like these Africa where it was like, hey, like you got to be skeptical of the fact that we're safe. Like there could be a lion right around that bush.
Yeah, I do think that's different though. Like
hold on, Dan.
yeah, that kind of the skepticism of thinking about a lion in a bush, a lion actually.
Reactions.
And that's totally different from people having like
One's instinct and one's logic based, or
I
in
mean,
rational
the
causal
person
way.
that
But could
even
we
though
separate
that's
that?
what's that?
Stop JFK. Because we don't. Do we instinctually, as we instinctually skepticize the line in the book?
now is like this notion, like Thomas asked, like, well, why do they believe that? Like, wrong feels bad. That's it. Fucking end of story, right? Like that's the only thing that, and that's the only thing that I ever see that really keeps people from expanding their horizons. Position where I might be wrong, that's too uncomfortable.
I wonder.
Agreed.
I wonder with the fights that we still see with world, or just go political, where people are like, I want to work towards something good, but yeah, there's this back of the mind thing of like, I can't be wrong to the level of where I'm gonna get completely taken over, and there's that fear, literally in our politics in the United States, of if the other part.
It kind of goes to my question.
Then separation from that, like the separation from like how somebody might personally feel is totally different from like a group behavior, right? So in that in the group behavior, that's more about, to me it seems, is persons of your group.
Yeah, the in group. Can we get
Yeah,
Daniel here in a minute?
Yeah.
Go ahead real quick, and then I'm gonna let Scott finish, bud.
Okay. It's just a question that I've been kind of asked self lately, and I figured that maybe if I put it out there, then we can get more minds on it.
We're an open
But
book here, my brother.
do y'all believe that the law of entropy is applicable to humanity, particularly to moralism?
To what? Particularly to what?
Moralism.
Moralism?
Because
Morality.
yeah,
Oh,
morality.
morality.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, morality. Sorry, I kind of create my own words
You're
sometimes.
good.
Okay.
But
It's all good.
but like as in the law of entropy is as time goes by, things get more disordered.
Yes.
It's a universal law, and I'm kind of wondering to myself, do y'all think that that is applicable to mankind as far
Yes.
as I think that we had more of an order.
Do you
We
think?
have been more organized than we were in the past, but it's moving toward more disorder. I think
Okay.
that once you establish order and then the law of entropy comes, and then now it's moving more toward disorder.
Well,
And I think
entropy
that's,
is on a closed system, so there is no closed system, because the Earth is in a closed system. But I understand what you mean metaphorically. But I mean, do you think
yeah,
that we were
metaphor.
more? Do you think that we were more organized in the past than we are now, or what do you
I've been
mean?
wondering that lately. I've been kind of wondering that if we were more humane, like more
Oh,
considerate, more compassionate.
I very much doubt that.
yeah.
So
You
Daniel,
think that in like the
Daniel,
50s or the 40s? What?
Daniel, blacks weren't allowed to be in the same restaurants as people in the 50s. Like, I don't. When Trump says "Make America Great Again," as a history teacher, I ask, when are you talking about?
Yeah,
And I'm not trying to be mean, but like when you go in the past, rights lessened for minorities in this civilization. And if Scott was going to mention World War II or something like that, like one race of people tried to eliminate another. Like, I don't.
yeah.
I understand there's ethics that have stood, thousands of years of civilizations to hold up about love thy neighbor and stuff. But yeah, you
I
go
mean,
back in
even if
history,
you were to talk about biblical morality back in the day, right? It was okay to sacrifice your son if God told you to, right?
Well, I mean, I think that some stuff in the Old Testament, like I'm gonna be honest with y'all, like I'm a Christian and which everybody knows that, but some stuff I do have like they're so like the literature is so old. It's not that it's I can't say it's difficult to be trusted, but I'm wondering what type of literature
Well, I mean,
was
I think that's a
written.
good start. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Daniel. I think that's a good start because if you read the Old Testament literally, that's a fairy tale.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I do have a question for you, Daniel. Do you think the morals in the Bible, that like what people took as being moral in the past is not moral anymore, right?
I mean,
So
it
like
was it was moral to stone unruly children in Leviticus, Daniel.
yeah, so
Yeah, well, I
so I'm
mean
just
that
wondering if
was
you think it's sort
before.
relative to like the
Yeah,
time period now, right? So
I
like,
think I'm referring more toward like New Covenant times. Like, I mean, because in Old Testament and Leviticus, that was before law
Well,
enforcement,
we
that
don't
was before
crucify people
anything.
today.
Right, I know, but
So
that
well,
was
well,
an
I'm sure there is some places in the world. Don't quote me on that, guys. I'm sorry. There probably are people being
no, I
crucified
mean,
today.
now I mean,
drug cartels and shit.
Yeah.
they're still
Sorry, Daniel.
executing no, they're still executing people publicly for just their beliefs.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there is still killings and stuff going on. I'm just curious as to, like, back then, man, people were so careful not to do certain things, and now it's like we don't give a, like, we don't care at all. I mean, we just do whatever we want. We make our, decisions, not really thinking about any consequences. I mean, for me, for the most part, is for the most part of my life, that's how I was. And I felt like as a child, I was more in order. And then once I, stepped out of the nest, then I went into disorder. And I think that, eventually I came back in order. But I've kind of been questioning. It was just a question that I was basically asking what y'all thought about. Do y'all think that things are going more toward disorder now than where they were previously at any point in time, where people were, like I said, yeah, I understand slavery and stuff like that. I understand that they were evil people, but is it getting more, like, is it moving more toward,
Dude,
um,
I think our idea of morality and I think our ethics and our idea of empathy has spread much wider and larger since the internet has happened. So if you're talking about organization, that's the biggest organization that's ever happened in caring, understanding than we ever have been in human history.
okay, so with that being said, do you think that in, like, eventually it's going to go from that to back to the chaos that we were in previously with all the
The only information I have on this, Daniel, and honestly, it's Steven Pinker's book called "The Better Angels of Our Nature." I don't know if anybody in the chat has read this, but Steven Pinker is a linguist and he's a genius. And he basically did a book full of statistics on how mankind throughout the Dark Ages has been slowly rising out of, the poorest of among us on the earth are richer than they ever have been by proportional standards. Water is more drinkable than it ever has been. People are more open to different types of sexuality than they ever have been. I mean, every metric of human well-being has been slowly going up as society has increased, and a lot of that is due to Western influence and capitalism and things like that. Not full blown capitalism, but you know what I mean. Just go look into that book. Go look into Steven Pinker's "The Better Angels of Our Nature." It shows that we are getting better. I don't know if it will continually be that rise, but I hope that it is. I hope it
yeah,
continues to be that way.
that was kind of what I was wondering. Have we went from order to disorder, or is disorder and we're on our way to disorder? I think that if we were on our if we thought that
Well,
maybe we were on our way to disorder, then maybe it would explain some of the things going on possibly.
I'm going to be positive
So,
and hope that Steven Pinker's work is actually well modeled because he is a scientist, a psychologist, and I'm going to trust that we are getting better as long as we don't regress into some World War III or some nuclear catastrophe here soon. I think that we're going to continue to get better and more empathetic and more connected to where our in group and out groups aren't so tribal anymore. I think that's going to happen, but I don't know. I mean, I'm full of idealistic too, so who knows what's going to happen. Scott,
Thomas.
did you want to say something, or Brett? I'm sorry, Brett. Go ahead.
Well, I've talked a lot. Can I respond to Daniel's point, or
Yeah,
do you
go
want
ahead.
someone
Go
else to
ahead.
go?
Scott can go next, and
Okay.
then we'll get Perry in here.
Okay.
Or I don't know if
Daniel,
Mace or Dal are even here. I didn't. If they want to respond, they're more than welcome to. But he is.
Okay. I'll give two short points.
Okay.
One, with the Vietnam War, part of the reason that it ended was because the media in one of the Supreme Court cases started showing stuff on TV and in the newspaper. And so, yes, the ascension of media actually, like you said, Thomas, for the internet, now back with the newspapers in the 70s, actually did the same thing, where the general public was like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
Why
you're
are we
right.
in Vietnam? So, like, it actually used a really good purpose. Daniel, to your point on the chaos and whatnot, I can understand the thought moving forward of where that might be growing. I don't see, though, when people get into their dogmas, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but for religion, I don't see humans coming to one religion as they are currently. I see more cyclical violence because, again, the in and out group that Thomas just mentioned, like, people are not, they're taking the points of their given dogmas so seriously, or at least some of the population does, that they don't see they don't see the other person as human. And so
That's
that
correct.
to me that to me is like where religion could serve a good purpose to love one another, etc., in the future of humanity, assuming you could have some unifier.
Wouldn't
It's
that
not going
be
to be
amazing?
it's not going to be unified if the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews and the Hindus just keep looking at each other like, you are the other. Your skin color, your
I understand
language,
that. Yeah.
your dogma. It's not. I don't
Some of the
see
dogma
that ever being
includes.
solved.
Yeah, I'm with you. Some of the dogma includes not shit. I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead, Daniel. Respond to that
Well,
if you
I
want to.
definitely agree with you. I believe that there is going to be a rise in violence, and I believe that whenever we view people like that, it's it's definitely wrong. I mean, we're breaking, since we are on the quick subject of religion, we're breaking one of the most valuable commandments, as was mentioned earlier: love your neighbor as yourself. If we're looking at people and judging them, we're judging by appearance, and that's not just racism, but that's man, what is that word? Where it's like you're just basically racist. It doesn't even have to be a specific skin color. It can just be somebody that doesn't agree with you.
Like
Yeah, that's just an
bigotry?
out. That's just an out group. Some kind of out group. Some kind of
Xenophobia, is that what you're thinking of?
Xenophobia.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
xenophobia. There
it's
you
some
go.
crazy word like that. Yeah, I need
But see
y'all's
here,
help with these
Daniel.
words.
Daniel, real quick, buddy. Daniel. The
Yeah,
problem with most of dogma and most of religion is that they, not all of it, but a lot of the Abrahamic religions and stuff, especially, are saying that the morality, but you have to be moral because the boss says so.
yeah, no, that's religion. I don't go by
Oh, you're
that.
not okay. I forgot. You're not a regular. That's right. I'm
No, I
sorry. My
don't.
bad.
I don't. I really don't like religion. I think religion is just a bunch of rules, and it's basically
Okay.
man's attempt to get to God, and that you can use religion as control for other people
I
and
apologize for
try
painting
to.
you with a vague brush. I had forgotten
Oh
you told
no,
me
it's
that
okay.
before.
No, we're
Yeah.
still getting to know each other. It's okay.
Yeah,
No,
brother.
but I think that religion does involve um judgment. Like there is a lot of judgment in the church that are religious, but it's like, man, if you see people the way God does, you just love them because they're people. I mean, you don't really look at,
Yes,
eh,
that's it.
you know,
I,
That's
I
fucking
agree
it
that
right
we
there.
should love anybody no matter what, but that's just a part of my moral axioms. It doesn't come from book or from anywhere except inside me. I don't want to get too far off on religion, guys, but I am going to let
yeah.
Vlad come in and y'all can talk about religion for a little bit. Did Scott or Perry have something to say before I bring Vlad on?
No, I'm good.
Perry,
Um,
what's up?
I'll say one thing.
Okay.
And I don't know honestly my own personal thought on this. Do you think that it's better or worse that we have different colored skin emoji, thumbs up, or people? So when you give someone a thumbs up, I mean, why can't we all just view each other as like yellow and the same skin color?
Well, I mean,
I
in
mean,
science, there is no such thing as race. That's all a cultural thing.
Exactly.
So,
hey,
But
I'm
do
gonna
you
be
Like
think
Van
honest with
that
you.
Clark just
yeah,
say,
we're just
we're all
Americans.
like what's
American.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Start
is
loving
it
each
is it
other.
helpful for any reason
Get
to like categorize us like that?
well,
Or
get,
No,
Let's let
that's
Scott.
just how the political system wants us to
Vlad, I think
divide
Scott had a
us.
question. I think Scott had something for you.
Go ahead. Go
Vlad,
ahead.
I'd say get past American, right?
All right,
So
just human
when
then.
you look at another person,
Just
it'll not
human.
them the
Yes.
same way they would about like any person. The same way. We're all
Each other's child like their own with that same care and love, not to destroy them, not to violate them, not to, but to tell them, hey neighbor, that stranger was looking at your kid. How about we pay him a visit? You know, that sort of stuff. You know, and in community get-together parties, they're all chaperoning, and it doesn't matter. They're not just chaperoning their own kid; they're chaperoning somebody else's kid and say, hey neighbor, something's going on over here. You know,
Some people you
there's you know,
can trust. Absolutely.
yeah.
yeah, but a
So
good neighbor will also tell you to tighten your shit up too, though, right? Right. So like
exactly,
they're not
and vice
like, hey,
versa.
you're doing a good job. Like they're like, hey man, your shrubs are looking a little bit rough. You know, like,
And a good neighbor will tell
that's the
you,
part of
be
that's the
tell you,
part
don't be
about
looking at
just
that neighbor that way. Don't be looking at that neighbor that way. They don't need you to plow their ground. You know what I mean? They don't need you to plow their ground. Just mind your own side.
If they come
You
over
know, a
and
good
talk to me
neighbor.
about my bush, I'm gonna be like, I believe that's none of your business. I do say, sir, you have asked too much. Honenheim, I
I'm
haven't let you
dying.
speak
I'm
in a while,
dying.
bro. Uh,
No, it's not
Honenheim,
Honenheim. It's Honeyheim. Honeyheim.
Honeyham, do you want to
Honeyham.
come? Do you want to speaketh to us? Shall you speak? Honeyeth Hymeth?
It's
Oh, are you there?
happily is Tom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, yeah. Thomas can use my name however he likes, but Vlad, you call me Hohenheim, or I'll start calling you silly names too.
No, I want to call you Honeyham. Come on, be
Oh my
nice.
god.
Be
Okay,
sweet to me, man. All
I'll
right.
I'll be okay. I do. You're awesome, Vlad. I love you, dude. Anyway,
I think I've earned your
sorry.
respect in that way. I
Yes,
know
you
we
have.
have our
You have.
differences, brother. I know we have our differences.
I think you're an absolutely wonderfully sweet person, Vlad.
You
So
too,
yeah,
brother. You too.
sorry. I was
Despite
just
our
having
differences,
recently
I know
having
we
a.
could agree at the end of the day. We won't be chopping each other's head off or anything.
Oh man,
You
Okay.
know?
definitely not. You're awesome. I just probably just been having some recent crazy stuff going on. We've lost two very close friends. Not dead, but they just lost them as friends. So
Damn.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Anyway, um, I could speak to all sorts of stuff you're talking about, but I think I'll just jump in a bit. I'll stop for now.
Okay. Well, we
You
can.
know, guys, I
Go
think
ahead, Vlad.
true friendship will be discovered when Hohenheim tries to speak American English and we try to attempt to speak English from England.
I can't do it
Ooh.
very well. My
I can
No,
accent,
come
I can
on.
my
speak
English
American.
Come
accent is
on.
I can
terrible.
I can
Hello,
speak
Oh,
ghost.
American
okay.
accent, American English right now if you like that, brother.
I like that. I like that.
Hey, how many?
Woo!
Hey,
Oh, damn.
I have about 10 or 15 questions for you the next
Oh,
time we're on a
Jesus.
different topic.
That's
Since
okay.
you want to questionnaire me, I got you next time. All right.
Daniel, you got questions for me? That sounds. Let's do this,
Yeah, go
Well, I
ahead. You and
can't right
Daniel can
now.
go at it if
please.
you'd like.
If we could
It's a
do if,
different
a little bit
topic. I don't
later.
want to.
I'll
It's
I'll
all
I'll let
on.
it go on for a little while. Then we'll go back to cognitive bias here in a minute.
All right,
Ask
hold
a
on.
couple questions. One or two now would be great.
Hold on.
It's a bit noisy where I am.
Yeah. You're not
I
super
gotta
loud
admit
on your
something.
mic, Hohenheim.
I gotta admit something, guys. Today on calling in different programs, I've been in my flow. I've been in my
I'm
flow
glad.
so good. It has been so
Let's let.
fun, dude. Today, you guys have
I'm
made my
happy.
day. Okay, both shows have made my day, and others. I even had my own musical program today. I only had two people on there. That was
I'm
so fun,
sorry.
dude. Honestly.
If I can ever get on here and see again, I'll try to join. But let's let Daniel and Hohenheim interact for a second because Hohenheim said he had some questions, and I'd kind of like to hear Daniel's responses to these.
Hold on. I'm
I
looking for
think
my
Daniel had
list.
the questions.
Yeah, Daniel
I think
wanted to
Daniel had the
ask
Okay,
I
questions for
my
do.
bad.
me.
My
Yeah.
bad.
questions.
I'm looking for him. Hold on. I had him written down just for. I even put his name at the top.
Oh shit.
Hold
Well, what I'm gonna do now is switch to my American accent because it's gonna be far more fun like this.
Hey, y'all. How are you doing? My name's Hohenheim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nips, give it
Hohenheim. So
idiot.
for your American accent, can you say, "Can I have a Big Mac and large fry, please?"
Well, can I have a Big Mac and large fries, please?
Oh, that is money.
Dalsu says, "Vaccinate yourself before you wreck yourself."
Vaccinate yourself before you wreck yourself. Oh, shoot, I'm right in the middle of a showroom and my
Once told
voice is
me
echoing awfully.
that it's possible that the southern people here in the United States picked up after that English, so they developed it like in their own format, their own way up there in the South. So when Hohenheim just jumps to the American English, he does that cowboy type of English. Damn,
Like
that
he's
tells
from
me a lot.
Texas.
Hey,
I'm from
hell yeah!
Texas, y'all.
How y'all doing?
How y'all doing
Well,
there?
I have been practicing the soft American accent, which is really hard, though. I'm not very good at that yet. I'm trying. So, Daniel, these questions, dude.
He's probably still
You
searching
there?
for them. He said he had them written down, and then he muted himself. So he's probably
Yeah,
looking for them.
I can't find my notebook, man. What's your name
Well, I
on
mean, just what
it?
you can remember. I mean, do your
All
best.
right. Well, they're in a specific order. Um,
Oh, shit.
Ah.
yeah. Uh,
I've
dang, I
asked for
just
this
saw
with
it
my
too. I just
questions.
saw it like earlier
I mean,
today,
you
but
can
now
take
I
your
don't
time,
know.
dude. I'll let you guys hash it out whenever you find it. It's all good.
Yeah, I find it kind of humorous. It all works out whenever, like, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna get him.
I'm gonna get him.
I'm gonna get him for those
Oh,
questionnaires, and then whenever he's done, I'm gonna say, okay, thank you, and then I'm gonna mute myself again.
But like, I mean, if you
I
can't find it
deserve it.
right now, that's cool. Just keep looking
But
for it.
Daniel, I warn you, Daniel, that I quite happily change my mind. So if you can change my mind, I will happily change it, and I've changed it on some very big topics recently. So
Really?
I'm
Well,
open. I'm
that's
open to
good. I
change
mean,
my mind.
I've you know, I like my thoughts being challenged. You know, I mean, it kind of lets you dig deeper. You know,
Daniel, when you say that, I actually think you mean it. Like, I really
I
do
well,
believe that you want your beliefs challenged. I think that's a good thing.
well, I
So
mean,
Daniel,
truth
I'll
is
ask you
truth,
one
whether you
question
like
to
it.
see. I'll ask you a
Yeah.
question then to see if this is true. Is it possible that you're wrong about God?
Well, yeah, there's a possibility. Yeah. I don't personally believe that I am, but there's a possibility that we're wrong about many things. So,
Everything.
So God could not exist.
Is
um,
it a possibility that God could not exist?
I would say, uh, to me personally, no, but
Bye.
I
There you
mean,
go.
But
but
you consider that variable, right?
yeah, you would have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not a dummy,
You would
bro.
have to.
I know you've considered it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, you would have to consider that possibility. It's
Yeah.
just like it's just Einstein didn't want to believe that there was a God, but his second law, his law of general relativity, he didn't really like discovering what he discovered, but he said one cannot simply rule out a God. So I think even with
But when
not
he was talking
believing,
about God, Daniel, when Einstein was talking about God, he was being metaphorical. You know what I
I
mean? He
know.
wasn't literally referencing the Bible
Yeah,
God.
Well,
and
Yeah.
he was.
Einstein certainly wasn't a Christian.
Oh, I know
Yes.
he wasn't, but he did believe he didn't think it was rational to rule out intelligence like superior.
Ooh,
Superior
But
intelligence. Well,
no.
I mean,
yeah, I
I
don't.
don't rule out superior intelligence, but I do rule out the omni stuff. I can't deal with the omni stuff. I don't. None of that makes sense
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's tricky because I think that's where my I mean I can say that I think that's where my limited knowledge would stop. You
Okay.
know, because I mean I think
Into the teleological arguments for God, the contingent
yeah
arguments for God,
yeah
the transcendental
teleological
arguments for God, all those different ones.
yeah.
Okay.
Ideological,
Cosmological. Yep.
cosmological argument. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I've looked into all of
Argument
them.
from beauty, argument from design. Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
So
So
you
Daniel,
have covered a shitload of this. Go ahead, Honheim.
could I bring Daniel? I could probably bring Daniel to the punchline. So what did you think you were going to get me on, and I can maybe help you get me?
Well, I just had a few logical questions. Like it wasn't really anything scientific or I mean, it's
Do you
somewhat
remember one of
evidential.
them?
Yeah, I
Oh no,
found
I
my
was going to
list.
ask. I ask again. I'll ask you again. So what did you think you were going to get me on? What was
Oh,
the thing you were going to
just
try
to
and persuade
where
me?
oh no, not really persuade you or convert you overnight or anything. I was just being like I think I might stump him a couple times type thing.
Well,
Like I think I might leave him
yeah.
speechless maybe once or twice.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
do you
Like
want to
Honenheim,
persuade
I
me?
think Daniel had like a list of questions. You have your questions that he wanted to
Yeah.
ask you. Yeah, Daniel, go ahead.
I think he
No,
Okay.
to ask
no,
you,
yeah,
Are,
yeah.
or
So
was it
are you
Daniel?
what
sure
I'm,
this?
I'll ask again. I don't think
Yeah, let
this could
Honenheim
answer
ask
that
his
question
question
there.
first, and then we'll get to Daniel.
Okay.
So Daniel, what was the goal? What did you want to persuade me of? What was the got you? What do you want me to learn from you? Like, where do you think I'm wrong?
It wasn't really anything specifically as far as a goal of what I wanted you to learn. It was just mainly like some questions that I wanted to see what your responses were,
Go for it.
Yes.
and
Well,
just to
why then?
kind of see, how honest we are with each other, I guess.
How honest is so you
Just for
do
the hell
think
of it,
I'm
go ahead
being
and ask one of
dishonest? Or
them. Yeah, just go ahead and
Okay.
ask
think
one of
I'm
them so
being
we can get it
dishonest?
on.
So
It's easy for both of you. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm just trying to find the intentions here. So I'm just trying to find where we disagree.
Oh,
If you can
it's
remember
mainly
even
just
where we disagree, like
no, it's not anything like that. It's not anything serious. It's basically just for humor.
no,
Like
that's
it's
fine.
nothing.
No, that's
It's
not serious.
nothing.
That's
No,
not
it's
serious in my that not serious in my opinion. Disagreeing is great. I either every interaction I'm either there to learn or teach, and if I learn, that's great. If I teach, that's great. That's the only two things that are going to happen, unless there is
not really. No, it's mainly
Okay.
like
not really.
just kind of like we'll just think about what we usually think about.
All right.
I think it's
Say the
more
first one because I'm so interested now. I really am.
Yeah,
Say the
okay.
first one real quick.
Do you believe the divine Jesus ever existed?
I don't know.
No. Okay. Have you
I
ever
don't
lied?
know. I don't
He
know.
says he
I
didn't know.
don't
Oh,
know.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't
he
hear
didn't know.
the I don't part.
That's okay.
Um, have you ever lied or ever heard anyone else lie to make themselves look worse?
Yes,
You've
unintentionally,
you've heard of
and
somebody creating a lie to make themselves look worse?
unintentionally, yes.
As far as, can you give me an example?
Unintentionally, yes. So they could have said it, and then they make themselves look worse. Then sometimes people can lie to make themselves look worse in to actually make themselves look better. So
Yeah, to
I,
actually make themselves
that's a
look better, but
strange.
not like okay. Have you ever heard of
I don't know. It's a
anybody
strange question.
lying?
Strange
Lying.
question.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It is. That these are some thought twisters.
I
I
don't.
can give an
I
example of someone lying to look worse.
Oh,
Go ahead.
what?
Yeah, you're in a relationship with someone and you've gone off them. So you try and make yourself look as unappealing as possible. So they dump you because you don't want to dump them because you'd feel guilty.
That is a good example.
genius. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. I have. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to my next question. Those are some good answers. Okay. Have you ever lied or heard anyone else lie to cause suffering or death on themselves?
Yeah.
um.
Yeah, I did that
Yeah.
yesterday, and I caused myself a huge amount of suffering. Lost two very close friends, um, trying to
If you
tell the
could
truth,
lose
and
them though,
then
are they really friends? You know what I'm saying?
no, I know
That's
they. Yeah, exactly. Well, I still regard them as friends. They don't regard me, which is very sad.
Hohenheim. You could
So,
tell me to go
yeah.
fuck my mother, and I would still be your friend.
Thank you. That's a true friend right there.
He'll keep that in mind for later.
Out
when we
here
get
in
to
this
the
room,
Bible.
gentlemen.
Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, go ahead,
Next
Vlad.
question.
We've
Okay.
let you be quiet for a while.
I
Daniel,
got a
Daniel.
question for
Hold on.
Hohenheim.
Daniel,
Hohenheim,
no.
how do you
Let Daniel
know?
finish. Let Daniel.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
Daniel
Vlad.
finish.
I was
sorry.
wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Vlad. Go ahead, Daniel.
I'm waiting for the. I'm
Okay.
waiting for the gotcha.
Do you know the main three motives to do something immoral or illegal?
Say it again.
The three main motives to do something immoral or illegal or
Motives.
unlawful.
Three main motives to do something immoral or illegal. I'd say the motive for everyone is just self-interest, self-well-being, the pleasure hierarchy that
Yeah, you're definitely
Travis
giving good
talks about.
answers. The top three are money, power, and sex. So,
Yeah,
Disagree.
pleasure.
those are usually the three motives to do something unlawful.
No.
How are we doing the questions? How much more? Come on.
Okay, we're almost done. Do you believe everyone who has ever claimed to have had a spiritual encounter or have ever heard
Hang on a
or
minute. I
seen?
disagreed with the last one. Don't you want to break that down?
Yeah, what was
The
that? Oh,
question
which
you
part?
after?
So if someone
The three main motives.
steals, if someone
yeah.
steals something they need to live, that doesn't come under money, power, or sex.
Okay, but it comes under provision.
You didn't
Did you
say
say
provision.
So
provisions?
I know,
That must be
but
fourth.
okay, think about it like this. I mean, provisions is, I mean, it's pretty much like money. Well, I mean, if you steal something, you're not having to spend the money for it. So, I mean, it's technically like just like stealing money. But anyway, it's basically, you can say that you can
Okay.
steal for survival. You can say that you can do something unlawful for survival. That's not a wrong answer. That's actually a pretty good answer, to be honest. It kind of goes along with what I'm
Wouldn't that be
getting at here.
power? Wouldn't power be that be under
I think
power?
yeah,
The
money,
will
power,
to
and sex.
live.
Well,
Yeah.
you take the biggest equation, you take God out of the equation, anything goes. All is fair in love and war, right?
Well, hang on real quick. We wanted to get Mace's breakdown because I think that was a good point to try to break that down.
It was
Mace,
a
do you,
good point. Yeah.
Mace, do you think that the instinct to live would be categorized under power?
No.
The will to power?
I think when he said power, he meant political power.
Gotcha. Is that what you
Any
meant,
type of
Daniel?
power, really. Yeah. I mean, you could categorize it as that, but survival, lying for survival, is a good one. It kind of goes with what I'm saying. Um. Okay.
Questions, come on.
So next question is, do you believe anyone who has ever have claimed to have a supernatural encounter or to have seen or heard of Jesus was either mentally unstable, hallucinating, crazy, or stupid?
I have.
That's a hell of a question.
That's a hell of a lot of people, and I
Yeah.
can't tell you the answer to that. How can I possibly tell you the answer to that?
Oh, I don't know,
I mean,
man.
I'm just asking, like, I mean, you honestly, you
I
don't have
don't
to
know.
answer it.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of people. I don't know. I would
Okay,
hope.
so
I would hope that those spiritual experiences are true, because I am in the eternal hope that there is a spiritual realm, there is a God. I'm a Christian. I believe. I hope though. But I'm not going to defend my belief here. So right
I
now,
got
this is a
you.
long time. It's a long show, and it's coming.
No, I got
It
you.
will come.
No, I mean, look, I appreciate y'all's answers, man. Okay, so this is the ultimate question, though,
Dun, dun,
is
dun.
that if
Can I get
if
a
it
drum
doesn't,
roll? Let's have a
it,
drum roll. Sorry.
okay, so let's do four motives for doing something unlawful: is power, money, sex, and survival.
All right, we'll
So
go
here's
with it
my
for the sake of
No,
question.
argument.
I would
Okay.
actually just remove money entirely and swap it for property.
That's
Because you
fine.
don't
We'll
necessarily have to steal with the intention of gaining money. You do have to steal with the intention of gaining some sort of property. For example, a loaf of bread.
got
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So check this out. This is my question. If, as was qualified by
If
scholar
as start again.
Bart
Sorry, I missed
Herman,
the part. If
um,
start again, I
was
missed something there.
that
Daniel,
Start
he
Christianity
again. I
couldn't
missed
hear
was
you,
something.
buddy. You're gonna have to start again.
okay? All right. So according to scholar Bart D. Herman, which is an agnostic, so we're this is non-biased, but Christianity was a forbidden religion. It was illegal. Well, if the New Testament or any of the other documents are true relating Christianity and its growth, and how it swept up from 20 Christians 1 year to 300 years later, there being over 30 million. With it being
Hmm.
forbidden, what were the motives for the apostles and those who wrote the New Testament if it wasn't money, power, sex, or survival? In fact, it actually got them thrown out of the synagogue.
Daniel, that's a
Yeah.
long question, my brother.
Well, I guess my question is to kind of sum it up. What were the motives of the apostles to create the Christian story if it was a forbidden, unlawful religion and it just caused them pain, suffering, and death?
Okay.
You expect me to tell you the motives of the people who wrote the Bible?
No, no. I'm just asking, why would somebody fabricate a story? No, this you don't. Like I said, you don't have to
Either.
answer
I
this.
can give you an answer. I can give you an answer. I can give you an answer. I can give you a
Okay.
guess. My humble guess of just me. It is either because it was true, or a multiple of other reasons, which could have been power, which could have been insanity, which could have been, I can just list many things. This is just making shit up. It could have been because it's true. It's one of them. So me guessing now on the motives of these people that
That's
wrote this
the least
thousands of
likely one
years
of them.
ago.
Right. My question was,
Yes, I agree with
what
Mace.
is the most reasonable?
Most
The most
reasonable.
reasonable answer is that it's easier to control people if you tell them that they're
Worship.
saying God
They
wants
didn't
it.
say. Wait.
You've
They
added,
wait. Let
so
me
you've
let me
added.
let
Hang
me
on, guys.
respond to that. They didn't
This
say
is my
worship me and bring
question.
me
Let's
my
let.
breakfast. They said be a servant, worship God. So there's no
The
power
most
game.
reasonable.
There's no
Hold
The
mind
on, I'm
most
asking this
control.
question, Daniel.
reasonable.
Okay.
I was just trying to answer the
Oh,
question.
excuse
Like
me.
John
I'm
will
sorry.
answer this question. So that's right. So I'd say the most reasonable answer is, again, I don't know, because this was written thousands of years ago. How possibly could we understand their motives? So
Well, in
Well,
order for it to
no,
be
I would like to answer that. There have been lots of powerful people whose power came from Christianity.
but no, I'm
Hmm.
talking about the rise of Christianity because, I mean, this according to the statistics, it's like
how
not even really comparable
how
as
could
far as.
we we don't know
Well,
anything apart from what's written in the Bible of these people's lives at their time. So how can we possibly know what was going on at the time when this was written down in their lives that led them to write down what they wrote down? We can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think
we
that
can't
one
know.
of the things that you said, and like I said, I'm not trying to convince y'all, but one of the things that I thought of too was that it could be true. You know,
Daniel,
it
Well,
just
I
Daniel,
could
mean,
be true.
that's one
Daniel,
of the options.
Daniel,
It is one of them.
Daniel, Daniel. I'm a Christian. I don't know what you're trying to prove here.
No, I'm not. I'm not really trying to prove anything. I was just wondering what you thought about basically everything I just asked. Like, I didn't know if you had thought about all those things before. And
What are you trying to ask me then? It seems like you're trying to ask me something that you haven't actually asked me yet.
no, I was just curious from you is if the motive, if it wasn't true, then what were the motives?
What
For
would it matter to you
Christianity,
if
you
I
mean?
thought that they?
Yeah,
Yeah, what would it matter to you? What judgment would you make if I said that they completely made it up for power? What would you see in me then as a result of my answer?
I wouldn't judge you. I would just ask what would make you come to that conclusion.
Why? What would it matter if I just decided I think that they were lying and they made it up for power? What would you think if I said that?
I would just wonder how you came to the conclusion that they
Because
did it for power.
it seems like, as May said, it seems like when people write about Christianity, as we've seen, every single president needs to be a Christian to be the president. It helps them. So maybe they wanted fame and
Hmm.
fortune. I don't think that's true. I'm hoping that what they wrote down is true because I read it every single day, and it gives me comfort, gives me understanding, and often gives me pre-warning of stuff that's going to happen. Strangely, but I don't know if it's true or not, and I'm not going to defend my faith here, but. Yeah, I can't know. So it seems like what's the got you're hoping for? I don't know whether you got it or
No,
not.
it wasn't a got you. It was
I
just like
think
I
he
just
gave
wanted to
up on that
see.
one.
No, I
well,
really
I
just.
know where he was going with it. His gotcha was going to be when the religion first started, it was unpopular, therefore the people at the top of the religion had not gained any power. I would argue, actually, they did gain power. They just gained power over a small cult as opposed to a massive multinational religion.
Yeah.
Well, as we discussed, like it grew up to 35 million in like 300 years. But yeah, no, that was it. I was just wondering what your logical intake on that was, because it wasn't that long ago whenever I had thought about it. So I was just, I mean, thought that I would share with you to see if you were to have the same moment I did, but it didn't look successful. So,
What do you mean successful? So what were you what success
well,
or
because
not success are you looking for?
whenever I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you just kind of dwell on it, you just kind of think about it. It wasn't really a right
Do
or
you want me to
wrong
tell?
answer. It
Do
was
you want me to
just what
tell
do
you
you
what I
think about
think?
it?
Do you want me to tell you what I think these people's intentions actually were? Then
What's that?
well, you should have just asked that. I think and I hope that these people were the genuine people who wrote it down. These things actually did happen to them. That when Paul was writing in prison, that he's there scribbling on paper frantically about his experiences that he had. Like I really hope that's true, but I don't know for certain because these are 1,000-year-old texts, and they've been translated so many times, and so I don't know. But I don't think it's true based on any historical evidence, as Joel and these speakers talk about. Mainly because I feel like I've had personal experience since I was very young, so which I would hopefully attribute to a God and Christ, but then it could be some kind of mental problem that I have, hoping to have order in the universe, and I do have that problem. I want to have order around me, somewhat obsessively, mild OCD possibly. So
I understand that,
I don't
though. I
know,
do understand that.
That's
but I do
cool,
see
man.
incredible.
That
I do see
yeah,
Real quick,
incredible
Daniel.
coincidences. Yeah.
Daniel,
I
we're
got
going to
my
let
question.
Hohenheim finish, and then we're going to ask Scott and Perry if they have anything to say. Then I'm going to go to Vlad. I don't even know if Brett or Dal are here. So go ahead and finish up, Hohenheim.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say that
I'm here.
I have practiced Buddhism. I practice a few Taoism a bit, and when I did start practicing Christianity, by incredible synchronicities and strange events and things that happened in my life, I was literally wounded by many different denominations of Christianity in my life. That stopped the instant I kind of accepted, which is very strange also. So, but I don't know if that's true. I'm not trying to convince anyone here of any kind of religion because I feel that could also be dangerous because there is thousands of different denominations of Christianity alone, and if you go down the wrong path, it can cause a lot of mental suffering, and I would never want that on anyone. So, yeah.
And don't forget, if you go down the wrong path, you'll also be tortured for eternity.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so
That
Mace,
is
are you ready?
the
Are you ready to
caveat.
make that confession of faith and come over with us?
Oh yeah, I'm convinced.
So
Hohenheim
we're
this is my
converted.
point.
me.
This is my
You've
point
converted us,
exactly.
Vlad.
Do you think that the psychology of the fear? I mean, if I was in that time, Daniel, and I was there without the grace of science that we now all of STEM field, I feel as though if I were told that if I don't listen to God's word that I'm going to burn in hell for infinity, I think that I'd be a Christian and I'd be part of that 30 million or whatever number you said.
well, back then, there wasn't that. Like, I mean, back then it wasn't obey God's order or burn in hell for eternity. It
Yeah, the
was,
hell thing came later in
yeah, it was
The
like
Christianity's
the
hell
earth
history.
thing
just,
came with Jesus. Jesus
Gotcha.
it's
spoke
like
more
God,
about hell than anything. That's why
yeah,
the
So,
12
Jesus
so,
did.
apostles
so when
were
did Jesus
exposed.
come in?
Yeah,
When
Jesus spoke
basically
more
in
about
the New
hell.
Testament, when Jesus comes in as God incarnate, then he brought in the things regarding hell because with King Solomon, they did not have a good clarification of hell. The theology of the Jews up to the Old Testament, it stayed like a mist in the air. It's incomplete, and
So to
that's
get my
why they're still. Go
chronological
ahead.
order right,
Mhm.
so you're saying that the 30 million increase was therefore before Jesus?
The 30 million increase was right after his
That's
So,
according
but
okay.
to
didn't you
everything
just
else.
say that it was Jesus that introduced this whole scheme of hell?
Yeah, but during New Testament time, what Daniel's telling you is during the time of Christianity as a Gentile religion, no longer in the hands of Jews, but now under the Church of Antioch, all the way down the first 300 years, just before it became Roman Catholicism, unfortunately,
So just
because
to get
of
it straight one more
uh,
time. So the idea of hell was after this 30 million boost.
before, way before.
Right. So don't you think that
Yeah.
this idea of hell had anything to do with the people believing in the religion?
I don't.
I mean, let me put it to you. Hold on, Daniel. Let me answer that. Let me put it to you
Okay.
this way. Martin Luther was walking
Hmm.
down the street and saw a fellow next to him strike down by lightning. He got so in fear of God immediately because he had been told, but he wasn't a good Catholic, let's say. He was going to study to become a lawyer. Immediately he renounced that and he went into the seminary because he saw that fearful act.
And he was scared that he was going
Sometimes,
to burn in hell
unfortunately,
forever.
these acts need to take place. Like when somebody crashes, and the ambulance and the police department says you should have been dead. Your
Vlad,
car
Perry
was crushed.
Perry had a
You know,
question
I'm,
for you.
I'm making that comparison. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
It's just that's yeah. I mean, Martin Luther's experience with that, I'm sure,
You know,
would be very convincing. But was he under the impression that he was going to have some scenario of eternity that
I would say yes, because if you
right?
don't
So
have that
yeah.
fear of God in you, that you're going to face God. What is worse, really, honestly, Perry, to face God in wrath or to end up in hell or both?
Well, if those are the
I
Well,
only
mean,
two
if I
scenarios,
mean,
isn't that the black
Let's
and
see.
white
honestly,
There's some
what's
other
worse, the
points.
bias?
punishment or the judgment? Because
Well, what's
eventually, if
worse?
you're
What's
not,
worse?
uh
Spending your whole life that maybe you only have here on Earth, believing in this stuff,
okay.
or right? I mean, isn't that a scary thought?
Let
Can
me
I
we're
let me
getting
can,
put
can
it to
close
you.
I
to
Let me
Pascal's.
hold on. Let
We're
me answer.
get
Let me answer, please. Let me
okay.
answer real quick. 30 seconds, please. Perry, we could both live our life. We'll both die and go to the ground and become fertilizer. The
Yep.
difference between you and me is I'm a believer. I know where I'm going. I have no doubt. But you, I don't know, my friend. I'm not
I
here to
no.
condemn you. The Bible
I get
condemns
that
you.
that's your
You know.
position, but what does
Okay.
this have to
Okay.
do with my primary question? That the fear of burning in hell in infinity, which you clearly described, Vlad, did that influence the acceleration of Christianity to 30 million people? Do you think that that
I
idea,
I believe I believe it did. I believe
I
it
think
did.
I think that
perfect?
I think
And the
it.
reason
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
well, I'm gonna say this. I think that there are many ways that God uses, and I think that fear is one of them. I think that the fear of knowing, and I'm gonna tell you what didn't strike me as fear of hell wasn't the torment and the burning and all that. Like that really did not scare me.
Yeah,
It
yeah, it
was
did.
the
Don't
it
be
was the
dishonest.
no, no, it was the
Don't be dishonest.
separation.
I mean,
It
come
was the
on.
separation of
Unless you're a
any hope.
masochist, that's gonna scare the shit out of you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I don't. I mean, I'm not here to share my whole life personal experiences, but
It's all
I've
right,
been through a
Daniel. We
lot.
just have a lot of
Yeah,
speakers. Just remember that, okay?
I know.
Hold on,
But
Daniel. Go ahead.
I've been through a lot, and I felt like this was hell. I felt like this was really hell was Earth, and like I said, every day of my life sucked, so I didn't really think that hell would be much worse. And it didn't really worry me, but one day I just like felt like what really kind of did scare me about hell was that in all my other situations I could ask for help from someone or whatever, and in hell, like there's no one, that there's no hope left, like you're done, like
So
you
you're
it's
more
basically
scared that
like
no one's gonna help you versus the fact that your skin will be burning for literally infinity.
well,
So
see,
so
this
real
is the
quick,
thing
the
is
idea of
this.
hell isn't really necessarily mentioned in Greek in the New Testament. There's a reference to the lake of fire and things like that, Daniel, but the reference of the word hell doesn't even appear until like 725 AD
I
by
know, but you
church
have to look at
tradition.
Hades.
I
Yeah,
know,
Yeah,
look
I
but
look
know
you
at
have
Hades is
Hades.
the
Hades and
Septuagint. Yes,
Guyena,
Yeah,
and
Guyana.
Hades.
Hades,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Look
the
for
other one is
Hades.
Sheol.
Is abyss. Is the abyss.
Yep.
Those words are mentioned very often.
They are.
But
I know. Yeah.
But I think it was more of like, I mean, because look, if people were scared of dying, then like I don't think that they would have walked themselves to their death. You know, like Peter was crucified upside down because he said he wasn't worthy. John was dipped in boiling water and then
Well, see, these are
exiled.
things
And
that we don't have accounts for. We just have stories of these things happening, and we don't
right, and I
have any
always talk
signed authors for these gospels. You know what I mean?
right, and I always talk in like a hypothetically speaking because I don't expect everybody else to believe what I do. You
No, and
know,
I
so
understand that. I'm just bringing up important topics. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get to the meat and bones of this.
yeah, I get you. I mean, now well, now that you said that, I forgot what the meat and bones were. Whenever people ask, whenever put me on the
Well, I
spot
mean, it's
like
just
that, I
the.
always
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. Go ahead. No, that might help me refresh my memory. What's your question?
We were just talking about the Christian hell and how it didn't show up until later, and then you talked about Gehenna and Hades and Tartarus and the
Yeah,
Septuagint
so
and how
I
it
just had
represents Sheol
told
and all
me
that.
I just had two Christians tell me that hell was influenced before this 30 million boost, and then I have an atheist telling me that it was actually in 270. So I'm very conflicted right now because it
Okay,
seems
okay.
like
For that, you look at the gospel. Jesus Christ spoke more about hell when he says gnashing of teeth, when he gives the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, an example. He
do you have
gives
a
so
date
many
perchance,
examples
more or
Okay,
of
less?
hell.
let me just
You
clear this
Go
can
ahead.
up
give
real
a
quick.
date,
Let me
perhaps.
just clear this up real quick. Hell was made for the devil and his angels. They were not made for us. Okay, so
We know the
before
doctrinal stuff. We're talking about when the idea of hell came up, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you?
in
What are
terms
okay,
you
of your
well,
talking about,
in
Perry?
terms of
see,
your 30 million claim.
I don't think we were threatened for an eternal hell until after the ascension.
Okay.
So I don't think that it was. I think that it was. I mean, there it does speak about something with Lazarus being in hell, but it talks about a place that refers to it. But I think that at there was no like you. Whenever you died before Jesus, there was you didn't go to heaven or hell.
Yeah, I mean, it
Like
was
I think
referred
you.
to in different ways in the Greek translation and in different translations, but the actual word hell, referring to a netherworld of the dead, was about 725 AD in
Or
terms of
720. I thought you said
se-
270.
yeah, no, not
720. That's a
270,
big difference.
725.
Okay.
Right,
So,
and
and then you go down and you look, of course, at what's in the Bible, and uh, it derives from the New Testament, but the word hell does not appear in the Greek New Testament and in the Greek translations of the New Testament. Instead, one of three words is used: Tartarus, Hades, or Gehenna.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I mean, I guess an all loving God would send us to hell. So,
Well, I think
Well,
what it is that if we if what the scripture says, if God is everything good and we don't want that, then the only thing that's bad that is left is what's bad. I don't
well,
think it's
Daniel,
more or less.
listen to me real quick, Daniel. I want to believe that there is a loving God, but if this God is judging me by some standard that I have no say in, then he can do whatever he wants to. I'll spend eternity in hell knowing that I am morally superior to that being.
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
Facts.
understand that. I don't understand what.
I,
Can you
absolutely
clarify that?
facts.
As in, I would rather say, no, you can't judge me by that standard, God, because I'm not judging you by any standard. So I think that you are morally repugnant for judging me by some standard that I think is reprehensible. I
Ah, so
mean,
you are judging him,
yeah, I'm
I was
judging
gonna
God.
say
Absolutely.
I've
but
put
you're
God
judging
on
him
on the
by a
stand
different
before.
standard.
Yeah,
He's
hang
Like
on,
I,
man.
judging you
I've
with.
judged God
I
before.
know I was contradictory. Hang on. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was just saying, man. I've been in the same. I've experienced the same thing. I had my disagreements and stuff, but I mean, I couldn't let my what I didn't agree with, like, and some things I realized later that my disagreement was a misunderstanding to in some cases. You know, some things I still rubs me the wrong way. Just I'm
Hmm.
uncomfortable with. Like I'm uncomfortable with certain passages in the Old Testament, but just because I
So,
don't understand or don't know how times were or why these rules were applied, I just have to conclude that I mean, even though I don't,
You don't
even
have
though
to conclude anything based on the Bible. You don't have to. That's a
well, I mean,
personal
as far
choice
as
that you're
with
making.
me, yeah, well, as far as with me, it's like my disagreement doesn't do anything whenever it comes to truth. Just because I disagree with truth,
So,
if it is
so real
true,
quick, Mace was right when I said I am judging God by a standard, saying that He can't judge me by that standard. But I'm willing to fall into that contradiction because I think, in terms of my moral axioms, that it falls in line with how I think about well-being and all of that kind of shit. So all I was saying a minute ago, Daniel, is that I would rather be morally fulfilled in myself and spend an eternity in hell than to give in to someone who is judging me by some criteria or standard that I don't know anything about, right? Or at
I
least,
think that it
go ahead.
depends on how we feel what our moral standard is. You know, I think
Well, yeah.
yeah,
But
I
your
think
moral
that,
standard is the Bible, right, Daniel?
well, I think it's more of, I really think it's, I mean, y'all,
Oh,
I'm spiritual, so I feel like it's more like it's guided. Like, I feel like you know how you, like, it's like a conscience. It's like the conscience that tells you,
So,
don't do this or do this to help this person. That person needs help. Go help
okay.
them.
So
You
why
know,
did you choose the Bible instead of the Quran?
well, the Quran, I did read some of the Quran, and I didn't. I don't really think that practitioners of love is executing people that are not of that same religion, or if they happen to leave. Because in the Quran, it does talk about death by the sword, and it had a lot to do with people leaving the Islamic faith.
So you
And
see it as morally inferior to the Bible.
I think that if it comes to execution for them not, it's basically taking away their choice. And I don't agree with
We're
taking away
probably getting
people's
too
choice.
far off in the weeds here. I'm gonna let somebody else talk because you and me have been going at it for a minute. Let's let
Oh, no
Yeah,
problem.
Brett had.
I'd like
Yeah,
to
go
just
ahead,
say,
Mace.
Thomas,
Go ahead,
I
Mace.
think you were unrealistic there.
your mic is a
You
little
said,
staticky on my end, brother.
Mace, you're being
is
right now
is
in your
that better?
speech.
Say it again. Talk again.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
A little bit better.
Is it
I can try to.
staticky
I
for
can
you?
try.
Is it staticky for you, Thomas?
Yeah, is it just me, or are you guys hearing it too?
It's still staticky for me, but I'll do the best that I can. It's okay.
Yeah, I think we can
Alright, hang
understand for the
on.
most part.
So anyway,
I'm real quick. I may be being
Is that
unrealistic in
better?
some sense, but
Yeah,
I'm okay to be. Yeah, it's better for sure.
Can I
I
go
was
after
going to say
Mace?
you were being unrealistic when you claimed that you would rather show moral superiority
I
in
probably
face
shouldn't have
of
used that word.
God, and then, like, I can't remember how you worded it, but basically you were saying you would rather be tortured for eternity knowing that you're morally superior to God rather
I probably
than
shouldn't have used the word superior, but yes, that's what I would say.
Thomas
bow
viewed the
down to an evil
contradiction.
god, basically. But yeah, I think that's unrealistic
but
Okay.
because
exactly.
if we were being realistic and someone
Okay.
threatened you with
Is hell
eternal
real?
agony,
Is hell real, Mace?
We don't know.
I don't think Christianity is real, but
Okay, so
that's
what
beside
are
the
we
point.
even talking
Let's
about?
say hypothetically, if it was
Okay.
true, you
All right.
died, right? You meet God for judgment.
Okay.
If God threatens you with eternal agony if you don't repent and bow down to Him, you're gonna
Mm,
do it. You're gonna do
Oh,
whatever
for
the fuck He
no,
sure.
asks you to do.
no, I
You're
would
gonna
not.
kiss His ass.
Well,
Nope, I
to
wouldn't kiss
believe,
his
Uh,
ass at
well,
all.
Mace is saying to
but
believe,
it
just
doesn't.
believe in him, right?
No, I'm
I mean,
saying
this
it
is a
doesn't.
normative thing.
It,
I can tell you that I will, and you can tell me that I won't. And who's right?
well, me, because if
Okay.
someone threatens you with eternal agony and they have the
Sure.
power to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do what they say.
Nope.
Because,
Can I
well,
put
if you think the answer's no, then you haven't fully comprehended
well,
what
Maybe I
eternity
haven't.
means.
Maybe I haven't.
my
Maybe
thought on
Mace,
this
that
is,
you have so much further considered how deep that kind of time is.
Well, I think I actually, whenever I had doubts of God's existence, I thought about the same thing that Mace is saying. It's like, okay, if I saw God, what would I say? And I would just begin this rant of questions. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, hold up, like if anything about the Bible is true, and he is the Lord of heaven, and he is the King of kings and the God of gods and all this other stuff, and he holds my eternity in the palm of his hand, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna bow,
Yep.
because what
Well,
else can I
then
say?
that sucks of you. Let's let somebody else hop in. Perry,
I
Scott, Brett, anybody have anything to say?
Yeah,
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 I
I
do.
do.
I
yeah,
would
go
Go
for it.
ahead. Not you, Mace.
say
Not
the
yet.
same thing about the Quran. Like it tells you you've got to do this. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's besides the point. Go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
I'll try to be concise here, so I'll watch my time.
you're good.
I'm not an atheist. I don't have a title. I don't claim that there is no paradise or hell. I claim that it's not really worth our pursuit because people are killing one another over trying to get there. And that, human consciousness, the realization has to be that humanity is in every person. And the problem where the religions might be good is because they do have people in groups, worshiping something like charity, all the other things it does. But like any idea, it goes too far. And when the idea goes too far to tell me that I have to believe in a paradise, and this coming from a guy, in a funny outfit who, I have no proof that he knows more about this than I do. I don't take that I don't take that commandment lightly because I think that people are flawed. I think the idea might be great about a deity existing, but like Thomas said, it's not. We have this time here in physical form to try to make the paradise on earth, if you will. And I don't. I often see people using a given ideology just to say I'm right, and therefore I am better than the other. And to me that is one of the, if not the main cause of human suffering that just is cyclical.
I don't
And I'm
disagree.
I'm not, again, I understand the concept, and like Mace was saying, I agree with Thomas Mace on the eternity of hell point. I would say to the deity, I would ask the question before I was sent to hell: why was there not enough proof given to where humanity stopped killing each other over it? If this is designed by a deity, why was there not enough proof given to where humans stop following the religious texts and actually just want to animalistically take each other over?
Why do you have the balls to stand up to this guy when you know that he has the power and the willingness to cause you eternal agony?
Because I I sense that it's not a deity that has a gender. I sense it's more of an energy force that is all connected. And yes, if you want to talk in the hypothetical, and I'm not saying it would be easy to stand up and ask that question, but I believe to be a liberated mind where I would want that answered.
Okay,
You
I
would
would
now,
want
have to be absolutely insane to
Oh, no.
stand up to
I
him. You'd
can
have
I
to be
ask?
insane
Hold
because
on, hold
I
on.
would want.
if you just shut up and do what you're told for a 5 minute conversation with him, you then avoid eternity of pain.
So we can fool God? Is that what we're getting at here?
Hypothetically speaking, let me ask you a question. What if, as soon as you saw him, all of those questions were answered and they made sense?
Okay,
I'm
that's
not.
just a ridiculous
I'm not.
hypothetical.
No, I'm just,
Yeah,
it's no,
exactly.
it's
And
just
people.
what if you have a
It's not a
supernatural
hypothetical. I'm
realm?
concerned. It's not
Right.
a hypothetical I'm concerned about answering. I'm concerned about in the real world here about people using ideology to kill one another. And
I
and
got you.
religion is no. I understand you guys believe that you have found the way, which is fine. But the second that people take that an ideology and use it to say that the other person who is not fine or is not following me is less than me, again, we're back to cyclical animal violence. And
Well,
so I can't, that's why I don't follow a given dogma,
No, I
because it
understand that.
just,
I think I have a good point here.
Here, hold on,
So,
Scott.
so
If I
No,
could
let's
clarify
let
something.
Scott's been. I know you've been quiet
Okay,
too,
okay,
Vlad,
okay.
but let's let
Yeah.
Scott go, and
Go
then
ahead,
we'll
Scott.
let you
Go ahead,
go, and
Vlad.
then we'll let
Sorry.
Mace go. Okay.
yeah, so Mace, you're making a weird differentiation here. You're asking if somebody had all the power, right? So it seems to me you're making this specific caveat of only something that has supernatural power to control everything at for infinity, right? So if you take that away and you just come down to like, okay, so let's get rid of that. Is like, so if a police officer just came and told you what to do, even though it might be wrong, right? Like you still just do whatever you're told in case like something bad will happen to you. Do you see?
No, because a police officer can't cause me an eternity of agony.
Exactly, that's my point. So you're making
Whatever a
this.
police officer does to me will eventually end,
Yeah,
but
yes.
hell never ends.
That's my point. So you're making the specific claim that it's for eternity, but you're couching the belief in an afterlife within that. So like, so if somebody comes and says, "Oh, if they give you that proposition," and I do not believe whatsoever that there is any sort of like being that gives me afterlife or anything like that. So I have no concern about that at all.
Well, that wasn't. That's irrelevant. The hypothetical Thomas presented, he said, if Christianity was true, then I would stand up to God because I'm morally superior to him. And I'm saying, no, you'd actually be too terrified to do that if you actually thought about the consequences
You
of
wouldn't
standing
even
up to him.
you wouldn't
But
even be terrified. It'd
So,
be
real quick, I apologize for interrupting you, Scott. Mace is correct. When I said morally superior, that was in. I shouldn't have said that. My moral axioms are based on love, empathy, understanding, kindness, those kind of things. So what I'm saying is, if God is judging me by some standard, then whenever he gives me the option, do you believe or do you not? I can't. I assumingly can't fool God, so I'm going to have to be intellectually honest and say I don't approve of your standard of judgment, and you can send me wherever the fuck you want. That's what I would say.
I don't think you'd have the balls to do that.
Well, I mean, that's my mind compared to what's in my mind.
Oh, man, I don't think. As I said, you don't seem mad to me. You'd have to be mad to say,
I'm
yes,
pretty
torture
insane,
me
bro.
forever, please.
I've got the papers for clinical insanity, but I mean, I'm just making a joke there. For real, I believe that I would do that because that's who I am as a person. But
You,
I understand that you would rather take the Pascal's wager situation where it's better to just follow. But I mean, could you convince yourself of it to the point of where God would believe you? That's the
exactly.
point I guess I would ask.
I think what really Mason's getting at is that if we can't really think of an approach in a supernatural realm as we can in a physical. Like basically, we're not just addressing a normal person. Like yeah, I understand the analogy with the cop, but it's like the cop is just a person. You know, I mean, like we're talking about something beyond that, and it's like I think that being in his environment I think that things are way different than what we can kind of grasp. I do think that we will have like if all this is true, like I said, then we would have like um this uh superior wisdom or something. I think that we would have certain questions that we've been curious about here be answered. I do believe that.
which,
But
which
that just goes along with my belief, though. I'm not expecting y'all to believe any of that. I'm just saying
yeah,
that I think.
that's not in the Bible. You're just making that up.
Well, no, I'm thinking. I mean, people still have revelations without the Bible. Like you don't need the Bible to see
Yeah,
things in
but
the
it's
spirit.
not canon though.
Right. Now, I get what you're saying, but basically, I believe. I mean, it does talk about spiritual bodies and stuff, and I mean, it doesn't talk very much about it. You can only speculate, but that's why I asked the question: What if all of your questions here were answered once you got there, and then it came to an understanding? I think that that's more of a sensical question because,
I think
um,
that's your hope, though, right? We don't know if that's going to happen.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
but it's like in that case, I mean, I think that a lot of questions, like, I mean, I would hope, just like Hamannak was saying earlier, I think that's a good way to put it, is that I would hope that that it's true, and we there it's not like this, it's not like where we're at now. There isn't limited knowledge, there isn't a certain area that we struggle in to understand, because I do think that we will acquire an understanding once we're in that place, if it's real. I think that
Oh,
we will
Daniel,
become a part of it.
shit, dude. I just realized we had a caller. I'm sorry. I've been looking at my
Oh, no
computer
problem,
screen.
man. Yeah, no
Brother, I,
problem. I
I
mean, you.
appreciate you. I appreciate what you're talking about, and you're having to defend yourself a lot against a lot of people. So, kudos
Well,
points to you. Nick, did you have anything you wanted to add, my brother? I'm sorry that I ignored you. Hello, Nick.
Nick's probably gone.
Nick's probably gone because I fucking wasn't paying attention. Damn it. Oh well, Vlad. I did promise you could speak, Vlad. So go ahead. I'm sorry
So
that we've got a lot.
basically, this is what I want to challenge everybody that's not a believer. Have you really done your homework? Have you read all the Bible? Have you really called
Yes,
out
Yes,
on God's name? Now,
yes.
don't say
I've read
yes,
yes.
the
I
Bible
have.
Don't say yes.
twice.
Don't say yes. Don't say yes. Have you really believed? Have you gone? Have you gone through it to say, hey, you know how God says, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth, like it says in Romans 9 and 10, please be honest. Not with a doubtful heart. With a doubtful heart, you don't get anywhere. It's just lay it out there. Say, God, if you're real, please present yourself in my life. Have you
Vlad,
read the Bible left and right? That you have maybe 1,000 questions for every Christian, from the Old Testament
Vlad,
to the New Testament. What?
I've read every single holy text that's been created by all the major religions, and I have at times sat for hours to let, say, to the universe do as it will. And while I've had some mystical experiences, I
Mhm.
don't, again, like, I'm not, it's not the problem with the religion itself necessarily. It's the fact that
Okay.
humans use it to then go from
Oh,
love your
okay.
neighbor
Then
in the
then you
next
have
sentence to,
you have prejudice. Hold on, Brett. You have prejudice and
yeah,
biases based on what you've experienced or what you've read or what you've personally seen or seen in history, and therefore that is a blockage that is not allowing you to believe the holy text. I'm referring to the Bible. I'm not going into Quran or any of the writings of Buddha or any other major religion. I'm going strictly to the Bible. When you go to God, because I've seen atheists come to Christ, and these were some of the most pig-headed people that were antichrist, and they hated us and they fought against us. And when they converted, then they started telling us and showing us what was wrong in their life, what they were doing wrong. And finally, when they
I don't,
got it, that means that
I don't,
God shined on them, that they actually believed, actually humbled in their heart. They said, God, I'm willing to believe. Show me the way. God started acting out in their life. Again, it's faith based. Yes, it's faith, but it doesn't come with an empty faith. After that faith comes all the major reasoning, because God is a logical being, a
Mm.
rational being. It's in the Bible. It says it very clear. I think it's in Isaiah. Come, like for example, reason with me. God says, reason. Many of you atheists have not reasoned God with God. You just
yes,
look
I
at them,
have.
some man in the pulpit, and maybe
Well,
some atrocities
I
that
Hey, we
think
got
happen
to
in
Brett
be
the
gave you
Catholic
some.
careful.
I
Church.
think Brett gave you a good example. Hang on, real quick, Daniel. I think Brett gave you a good example of how he has tried many different religions and how he has attempted to
Yeah.
meditate on those different thoughts. I mean, do you think that Brett hasn't gone far enough, or someone
No,
like Brett
no,
hasn't
it's
gone
much
far
easier
enough?
when you humble yourself to really want to believe with no shred of a doubt, and when you say, you know what, I'm open to understanding. I've heard these sermons several times. I have more questions. In fact, there's great theologians, believe it or not, Brett, or anybody that is at your level or higher in education. That's why we have men like J.P. Moreland, William Lane Craig, and that's not dealing with James R. White. When you sit down with these guys, these are philosopher-like theologians. They've studied all these things. Right? Have you seen the videos on James White when he debates atheists? He debates
I've
with
seen a
Jehovah
lot of
Witnesses
Christian
and Catholics.
apologists,
I
Vlad.
mean,
A
this
lot.
guy, he really is one of the greatest ones. Yet he's the one hated, and the one that's written the most books. And very humble, wonderful person. That's
Vlad,
the very same one that Josh and I agree. Despite Josh and I, we're a little bit different in many ways. We're both reformed and everything. I have a different background though in eschatology, if I could say it. My respects to
Yes.
him though. But what I'm saying
Vlad,
is, when you really look, really search with all your heart for the truth, because it's about truth, right? It's about truth, right? Correct, guys?
I
It's
would
about
hope
truth.
so.
Okay, then when it's about truth, then let throw the petals up in the air and let them fall where they may. But the thing is, it's like Lee Strobel said, I was looking for God. I was looking to
Let's let
disprove God. Go
tie it
ahead.
up real quick with a bow, and then let Brett jump in.
Okay, I just want you guys to consider everything, honestly. Everything is at the
Okay, go
Vlad,
ahead, Brett.
Vlad, do you believe that anyone in here, regardless of what background they are, hates you?
You're all haters. I already know.
I hate
You're
you.
all haters, okay? I'm just a big walking dartboard. I'm just a big walking
I
dartboard.
actually hate you so much that listening to your voice makes me want to kill myself.
Jesus,
Don't
Ouch.
Mace.
do that. Let me kill you.
I don't, Vlad. I hear what you're saying, and I would, with as much passion, speak on the other side. That again, I want to say this to reiterate. I don't have a problem with the given world religions. What I have a problem with is that people claim to know the deity or deities, and they claim to know it so well that they say this is the only way. And through history, humans have used this kind of reasoning to force control on others. And I think that there could be a future
I
where the
cannot answer. I cannot humanly answer for that because
No,
God
I'd
didn't
like
set
to
it up to
comment.
but we
be that way.
but
God,
we
God set it
but
up. Yeah, go ahead.
but in human form, we have to figure that out, or we're going to kill each other. We have to figure that that's what civilization is. For civilization to function in one of the best in the world in the United States, it's the liberty that every person can be the other religion. And
Mhm.
that's why I believe the ethic of love your neighbor, which actually comes from Confucius before it became from Jesus, is is the idea that again you're like you and I agreed on earlier, our neighbor's child is as valuable as our child because we see the inherent value and love in them. And that to me is the ethic that, or one of the ethics that could unite people instead of dividing them, because I honestly, atheist, Christian, Jew, Muslim, whatever, but
Mhm.
what is the, for this lifetime, for us to let people live in liberty and peace, what is the way? And
Let, I'm
I'll
sorry. I didn't mean
sorry,
to
I
cut
can
you
go. All
off.
right, now I've
No,
talked too much.
that's
I'll
good.
stop.
Good
No,
questions, bro. Good
yeah,
questions.
I just
Go
want to
ahead, Dad.
clarify what he's saying is that he's not at problems with Christianity. It's like this. He's got a problem with the Christians, which those who bury the name, wear the name of Christ. Basically, it's like this. If you order a new phone from Apple and the FedEx guy tears it up on the way to delivery, it's like, well, you're gonna be upset. But what he's saying is he's upset at the one that delivered it, not specifically the belief itself, but the abuse of the people that use that belief as power and control, which I get that. It's completely understandable. Because that is what happened. Matter of
Let me
fact,
jump in, Daniel. Brett, let me
yeah,
tell
go
you one
ahead.
thing. When Jesus was here, who do you think he fought? The people or the religious leaders, the religious hypocrites? He fought the religious hypocrites that were had imposed on people dogma that the Bible didn't say. Let me give you an example. There's a korban in the Bible, I think in the book of Matthew. The korban says to help out basically your old aging parents, right? So what did the lawyers of the Bible, the Sanhedrin, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, what did they invent? Well, no, I'm going to circumvent what God said and I'm going to take this money to the temple. God didn't say that. He said, take the money to your aging mom and dad who are needy. God hates crap like that when it comes to man made religious beliefs that He did not ordain. And throughout history, including the Roman Catholic Church, including the Orthodox Church, including some of the Protestant denominations, they've done damage. No, I'm not talking about the sexual stuff, which is deplorable, horrible, ugly, wicked, and if they don't repent, they're going to hell. But what I'm saying is, people have done some crazy shit in the name of God. And God has always constantly been coming after these people. Some, I believe most of them are in hell. Because why? Look, the Catholics persecuted those that were non-Catholic, the first Protestants. There was the Catholic Protestant wars for the first 30 years. The different kingdoms, whether it was with the Scottish, with the English, the French, or the Spaniards, they were at each other's throat, okay? Things like that, an example. One kingdom came in, if it was Catholic, it became Catholic. Another kingdom overthrew that government, that monarchy, it became Protestant. It went back and forth. It was horrible. All for just believing in wanting to believe the Bible and having a right to say, I want to believe like it says. You have other men superimposing their will, using the monarchy, using soldiers of that monarchy to go against your beliefs. That's our history as Christian. I'm
And
talking
that's
from
why.
Protestantism. Okay.
And that's
Now I'm not worried about those bastards that did things like Bloody
Vlad, we
Mary.
gotta,
She's in
uh,
hell. Go ahead.
Vlad, we gotta let other people hop in, brother. I'm not saying shut up. I'm just saying we can't get too deep in our preaching, and I can do it too. So I'm not, you know. Perry hasn't
that's why.
spoken in a while.
To see you at
Um,
church preaching.
I preach sometimes, and I shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Perry,
I
I know
mean,
Brett, you had something to respond with, but let's let Perry jump in real quick, and then I'll come back to you. Okay?
I'll try and say two quick things. One, this whole conversation, I've just been walking and smiling. It's just so interesting to see the hubris out of someone claiming to be infallible and knowing the truth. And you have someone like Josh, Vlad, and Daniel who all claim to know the truth and have somehow differing ideas on what this truth is. So that's interesting to see. And to the scenario that you guys were talking about, it's just the whole scenario doesn't actually make any sense. Talking to God or whatever, asking him questions. He's in front of you, you're in front of him, and he already knows what what you're gonna say and what's on your mind. So it would really just be a wasted step to
That'll be like saying
ask.
the girl across the street already knows your intention. You're looking at her, but she doesn't like you,
But
but you like her.
we're not all knowing like God is. So that's a bad
I
example.
know, but he gives you the choice. Hey, come and talk to me.
Yeah, but
God wants you to humble
he
yourself to
knows the
talk to
outcome
him.
of your choice.
But yeah, but that's him, not you.
Right. So what's the point of even having to stop
But how do you know if
and doing
you're
this
meant to
charade?
believe? How do you know if you're meant to believe? That's all I'm
I
saying.
don't. I'm
Give
not
yourself that
omniscient.
chance.
God is the one who's omniscient and already knows what I'm going to choose. It's just a wasted step. So, saying that Mace was saying that Thomas would say nay or say yeah, whatever the case is, he already knows. So why even have that step? Just send him to hell.
Well, I
Does
don't think
God?
he would send him to hell because I think God would know that
So
Thomas
yeah.
would actually repent in fear.
So what's the point of even having the repent ceremony when he already knows that that's going to happen?
Well, it wouldn't.
It's a
It wouldn't
scheme.
happen in reality. If it
Right.
was true, what
Right.
would happen is,
I
yeah,
mean, we were
Thomas would
taking it
die.
pretty seriously, so I figured I'd get into the details of it. But I agree that it's
Well, in reality,
wasted.
God would not need to have the conversation because, as
Right.
you said, He already knows the outcome. But
Right.
for us to understand God's reasoning, we have to pretend the conversation does happen.
So that was my 90-second spiel.
But I
Nice.
do want to point out that Thomas pointed that out like from the get go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so, and that's
from
that's
Hey,
fine.
G.
But why
that
even
was to Mace, yeah.
why even have the stage set when?
Long time no see,
I
G.
mean,
That's
go for it,
a
Nivek.
fake one, I think. Hang on, let's let Perry finish. Nivik, please.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
It's
Good.
been a
Good.
while.
Brett, go ahead, bud. I promised you could go next. Brett.
I just put it in. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just put it in the chat. It sounds hippie, but the vibration is compassion and love for all sentient beings, and that's irregardless of atheist or your theist position. And to me, that Vlad's right. I probably don't know the Bible as well as he does, but I again, I can only use my lived experience to see that is that's I think that's where we have to go. It doesn't mean you don't have boundaries and stuff, but it does mean that, whether my neighbor is Muslim, Jewish, gay, black, Hindu, it doesn't
A
matter.
gay black Muslim,
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
I'm sorry.
I don't like that one.
Gotta go. Have a good one, guys.
See you, man.
Hi, Brett. See you, bud.
Transgender midget Jew.
There you go. There you go.
I
Transgender.
thought G was dead. I haven't heard
Was
that
that
guy's
actually G,
voice
or is that the?
forever.
I think that's actually G, because last time G, somebody
There's
came
a
in with your
troll.
name and it wasn't. It was a troll.
Yeah, G, what happened to you? Have you been?
So,
Worry not, Daddy's here now.
Why did
Daddy's
you
here.
disappear?
G, let me tell you something, bro.
It's
Honestly,
the real G. G's back.
wait,
Sorry.
let me tell Perry something.
guys, G, hold on.
Let me
G,
tell
you left
Perry
a big
something.
impression when you rattled the cages of all these guys regarding fascism, socialism, and Marxism. You're known for that, bro. You rattled their cages. I love you for that.
G, you put sorry,
Perry,
Vlad.
Perry.
G, you put a big smile on my face, and I've been feeling like shit
Yeah,
most of the day. So
I'm
thank you
smiling
for
as
coming.
well now.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
fucking awesome. And thank you, G, coming back. You made me very happy today.
I was so
Awesome.
sad that I thought he'd left us. He'd gone.
Well, you see, I was sitting here online here, and I got a little notification that you guys were on here. So I thought, well, fuck it, I'll jump on and see if there's anything interesting being talked about.
Perry, I just
Oh,
want to
you know.
clarify.
Yeah. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, I just wanted to say that whenever Christians refer to the truth, I mean, yeah, we refer to it as a literal truth, but we also, like, whenever Jesus says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." So just to let you know that that's one of the ways that we refer to him. Like, he's, like, I found the way. So I think that just by saying that, it's like, well, in my people refer to Jesus as the truth. It doesn't always mean that same standard thing. It's also and like kind of like a identification of
Yeah,
Jesus. So I was just letting you
that's
know.
fine if you want to pose that definition. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that there's this dogmatic element to it where, I mean, it took you about seconds earlier to answer, could you be wrong about God? And you were very hesitant.
Because I have to rationally think about what would make me think that I was wrong. I have to scan that in my head first to give an honest answer. I'm not just gonna shout out yes or no.
Don't you have to do this
You
in the
know.
other direction? What would make you think you're right? At the very same time, that's a important question, wouldn't you say?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're talking about biases, and
Yes, we
I mean,
were.
what exactly, Daniel, would convince you that you were perhaps incorrect about your interpretation of the truth, we'll call it, since that's what you're calling God.
I would say my experiences. I would say if those were gone, I would consider it all just
Hmm.
something made up to be in a better place.
What
I would
kind of
just think that.
what kind of experience? Because that's a pretty broad term that could, you know what I mean? Is there anything
Was it
perhaps
like a
specific?
revelational experience, Daniel? Was it like a?
Yeah, it was several of them. I mean, to be honest with y'all, like, I almost died 7 times, and I did see some stuff, and
Wow.
I lived in every. I mean, it was a bunch of different stuff too. It was overdoses, suicide attempts, car wrecks with no
Damn.
seat belts, just thirst, starvation. I mean, it was multiple things. Like, and I know what I experienced. I know that there is something beyond us, and whenever I experienced what I did, I wanted to find out what it was. So I studied different religions, and the thing that whatever it was I kept experiencing sounded it was coming in correspondence with the Christian God. It was basically whenever I complained about something or someone else, this what I kept seeing was that I kept being shown myself. How can I grow? What can I do better? It was never like this. Whatever this was that I was experiencing wasn't in for gossip. It didn't entertain my thoughts, my wicked thoughts about other people. It actually pointed it back at me, like I'm the one in the wrong for even thinking bad about somebody else. And it's just but anyway, it was more than just that.
Okay. Well, that's what I was just
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, I'm not trying to cut you off. We just got 11 people in here, so I'm gonna try to give everybody
Yeah, for
equal
sure.
time. Let's see who hadn't spoken in a while. Nivik or G, do y'all want to say something here for us? Anything on your mind? We were talking about cognitive biases, but I mean we've just been kind of jumping around. So
Well, I kind of just got here, so I'm not entirely sure where the conversation's at.
well,
Apart
you and
from
Nivik just jumped
what
in,
appears to be
so yeah.
It'd be nice.
what
Okay, sorry.
appears to be another religious conversation. It seems like every time we get on here on the call-in show,
I know.
it turns into some sort of religious conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I am detecting a critical cognitive bias in that direction.
Yeah, it does usually
Sorry.
seem to fall to religion. It's mainly because Daniel and Vlad always call into my shows, and they're always welcome
I'm
to. And they
sorry.
are no. They're always welcome to, and y'all are very staunch
Thing about you,
Christians, and I
Thomas, I gotta
appreciate.
call in, brother. I gotta call in.
I
There's something about
appreciate
you.
hearing the Christian. I appreciate hearing the Christian worldview. Hohenheim is also a Christian, so we definitely want to. I want them represented because I trust their opinions, but
And Nick, who's Nick? There's Nick down there
yeah,
too.
we tried to get Nick a minute ago, but I couldn't hear anything from him, so I didn't really know what to do.
Hear Hohenheim in his American version of English, American English, one more time. Come on, Hohenheim.
What do you want me to say?
Whatever you like.
He just wants to hear the sound of your voice, Anaheim. Just say anything. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but in American English.
Anything at all. Anything at
Just want to hear the sound of that.
There we go.
Anything at all.
I would like to say to G, thank you so much for coming back, good sir. And you've got a big smile, as I said, on my face. And I'm so happy you decided to join us again, my brother.
Is that you trying to? Is that you trying to mimic?
That was cool. That was great.
Yes, G, that's exactly what it was. He's trying to speak American.
Yeah, no, I had to develop that because I would talk online with people in a space that would have people from Thailand in. Not that this doesn't, but I wanted to mask my voice, so I had to get this American accent that was wild, and that was it. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad I brightened up your evening, my friend.
You have, man. We're glad to see you. Dal, you've been the most quiet, and I have seen you in chat, so do not lie to me, sir. I know you're there. Dal Sue, Dallas Cowboy. All right, he's not there.
And if it could be saved, could we possibly somehow get back to bias? Because
yeah, we can definitely do that if you want to.
Christian,
Go ahead, Nivik. I did promise he could talk. Go ahead.
Who is not that's kind of doing the same thing in being guided through belief as well. Is it kind of like that?
What are you referencing? Nivik.
You come to it's also faith.
you're cutting out really bad. We only heard like 30% of what you said.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. A lot of times, the people who aren't religious, people who are, say that you're being guided through faith too. The things that you do, you don't know absolutely if that would happen or not.
Okay.
Is that kind of the argument that's being had?
Not really.
There were many different ones. There were many different ones.
Definitions of faith that people use, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least when you type in on Google, since I do that a lot, there's two of them that pop up. One relating to faith in a deity, and then one relating to, I mean, essentially confidence or probability type thing.
Mm-hmm. That's the two that I just got when I looked them up.
So I think that there's
Nivik, there was like 18 topics going on, so it was a lot of different ones. We went from hell to talking about something. I can't remember all of it, but Perry requested that we go back to cognitive biases, and I would figure you'd love that subject because that is
The
one of the
topic of
things you talk
absolute
about a
truth.
lot.
The topic of absolute truth.
The topic of
That
absolute truth.
just a second ago, we were saying like you're being guided by God. He's absolute truth, right?
You talking to me, Nivik?
People who are, yeah, that was the conversation. You're following it, right? That's not what you were getting
I
at.
thought you were asking me if I believed in God. No, I don't remember exactly the last thing. I mean, Perry, do you remember exactly what we were talking about? I don't.
I mean, me and Daniel were in some dialectic about a bunch of stuff, truth and how it actually means God, and I guess I'd argue that that's just an interpretation that would probably, maybe, perhaps differ from some subset of Christians, and then that subset will have another difference of interpretation amongst others. But I don't think anything fruitful can come from this. So I don't know. I mean, unless
I mean,
Nivik,
if you're
you
being
have
guided
anything
by
off of what I
God,
just said.
yeah, if you're
Yeah,
being
go
guided by
for it.
God, your truth should be absolute. I think.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you have the impression that it's absolute, right? Sure.
versus a person who is not a believer, so they
Can you hear him?
don't know what to really do because they're not being guided by a perfect being.
Did you guys hear him? I heard about 30% of it.
I heard maybe 5%.
Nivik, it's just a bad spot where you're at, buddy. I know it's frustrating.
Yeah, he's cutting it out for me too.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that. And Perry, what were you reading? Which ones did you want to go back to? Did you want to start with some? Go down the list and talk about availability heuristics.
I just wanted to say something to Perry,
Okay.
irrelevant to this topic.
Okay.
Told me about the meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I
Yes.
had a Ben today.
Yep.
We'll get into that, buddy.
Yep.
you hear
It's
me?
a good book. It's a good read. It's Stoicism in a nutshell. So, Marcus Aurelius Meditations
did
for the
you,
audience who has never heard of that.
Compare
it's a great book.
compare that reading to what is left of the readings from Epictetus.
Epictetus, yeah.
Yeah, Epictetus. Yeah, you're right. Yep, you're right. Marcus Aurelius was one of the last real Stoics, and Epictetus was before him or after. I can't remember. He either was right before or right after.
Is that
Epictetus-
one of
go
them
for
is
it.
a slave, the other is a king
Yeah.
or an emperor.
Yep. You're
and
right.
checking out the dichotomy between how they write or the lack thereof
They'd get along.
is absolutely just like astounding.
Yeah.
It's crazy that both of those men at completely different levels were living the Stoic ideal. You know what I mean? It's so cool that it worked across all platforms, especially back then. But then again, I don't know. They might have been insufferable people. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, most of us are,
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, the idea that you can actually apply Stoicism in a way that allows you to live a similar life to that of both a slave and an emperor.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, with this book that we're talking about and the other one, will I be able to answer Thomas's question? How do you know that you know what you know?
Meta epistemology. Dun dun dun.
Can
Well,
I take that?
I mean, I can handle that question.
Can I
That
take
shouldn't
that
be
answer?
Here in a
hard at
second, we
all.
do need
Can
to
I
get
can I
back
can I
to
take it? Can I take
biases.
it?
One second. Here in a minute, I'm going to get us back to biases, but let's jump around for 5
I
or
want to answer
6
that question. I
minutes.
want to answer that question.
God
Can I
damn it.
can I go?
Yeah, you can, but just be a little slower and easier going, okay? Go ahead.
I use my senses to take in the
Bingo.
information from.
Damn it.
You got cut off, Nick. You got.
Oh no,
Yeah,
they heard me.
no, we didn't. I didn't hear you either, man. You're cutting out.
Neither.
I use my senses to take
I
information
heard
from the
someone
environment.
say bingo.
Yeah, that was
Oh
me.
my god.
Nivik, really quick, guys.
Senses to take. I
Nivik,
use my
talking
senses to take information.
Nivik. You're cutting out a little bit, but getting louder doesn't help it. So just try to talk at a regular volume until you come back in, okay?
I use my senses to take information from the environment.
Okay. Where are you going with that?
Well, that's the answer. I'm going down the path of answers.
Yeah, how do we know that we know something that we know? Well, it's the same way that we know that we said something like, "How do I know something?" Well, I emitted that with my senses. I heard it with my senses. You heard it with your senses, and I had senses prior to that question being emitted and being applied to my senses. So it looks like senses is the categorical. Well, basically the category here.
Yeah, I'm trying to go down the line of reasoning here. I like. Well, there'd usually be a follow up.
Anybody who wants to follow up, go for it.
Usually the follow up would be, well, I get mine from a perfect being of God, and that's and I guess this truth is absolute. I don't know. I'm trying to answer the question myself.
It's all right.
I guess I'll talk. I'll do it back and forth between myself. I guess because I mean
well, the people in here who are Christians are Vlad, Hunheim, and Daniel. And Daniel is not with us right now. He's busy.
But I'm not getting a pushback on the answer that I gave.
Hunheim was a Christian. You know how I found that out?
Problem is there wasn't much. Anybody has senses. That's not even deep thought. The deep thought of the senses, you would have to go into profound things, not only in the abstract thinking, but in the things of biology. I mean, how do you even know where you're standing? How do you even know that we're having this conversation on an app called calling on a phone, and we're not just
again
figment of-
basically
okay.
Every point of verification along those lines, every point of justification would be something to do with the senses specifically. Now you could take that down into as deep as you want to go, but you're never going to be able to rid yourself of that little passenger, so to speak. Like you're never going to be able to get outside of the senses. I can get outside of whatever reasoning that you want to use, whatever method, right? But you can never get outside of the senses.
And the thing with that too is that you're only dependent on yourself, and that's it. You have yourself only to depend and to judge.
Do you see what G was saying, though, Vlad?
Yeah.
Do you see what he was saying? Okay.
But it's also
that's actually
like,
wrong.
For example,
He's actually wrong. It's the environment.
Actually limited. You're limited. You're extremely limited to what you know. You're basing everything on what you know and what you've experienced, and you assume that is all there is to know. Again, how do you know what you know?
We had some wind
It's
coming in.
actually
I'm sorry.
wrong. It's not me. It's the environment as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I mean, basically, what's going on here is that yes, I am confined to my own sensory intake and my own sensory impressions. I do not say, and I don't think anybody ought to say, that I only know that and can only know that and am confined to it totally. Because the fact of the matter is well, I interact with people who are also taking in sensory information in exactly the same manner to get where I'm going in life at all times, including right now. So, yeah.
I mean,
Le pragmatism.
Now, Vladi, can you close off your guided by God and navigating the traffic and
no, that's stupid thinking. That's stupid thinking. You don't. You're trying to stupid things. I'm a sensible being. I have eyes. I have ears that are God given.
Yes.
I see. I think. I have a mind. I smell. I taste. And
Yes.
something tells me if I step into stupidly without using my senses, that I'm going to get run over by a car. Come on,
But
that's not being
you're
logical.
you're using
That's
what we
just being plain
use.
stupid. That's just being plain stupid. That's not
Okay,
being logical.
let me know when you're done calling me stupid so I can respond, please.
Well, when you stop acting stupid, because you always bring up the same dumb
Guys,
question, and insane people
let's.
tend to do this. So you have to be very
I
careful, my
know you're
friend.
not necessarily calling him stupid, Vlad. I
No, I
understand
don't
that, but
mind. I don't
let's.
mind.
No,
But
I
but
don't think.
the thing is,
Hang on, Vlad.
it's like telling
Vlad.
you, why don't you jump off the bridge where there's no water? You're not going to do that. I wouldn't tell you to do that.
No,
That's
I
just saying
understand that.
something morally reprehensible and wrong. You know, I'm
I
not going to
understand.
go against logic.
Hey
I'm going to do
guys.
what is right.
It's not
Come
logic.
on,
Here we
be
go. It's
real
breaking.
and be
It's going to
truthful in
break
your
down now.
Well,
It's
I mean, you
breaking
No,
know,
down
it's
now.
not.
be
Nivik, stop.
truthful in
Stop
your
saying
asking
stuff.
questions.
well, do you know that one of the fundamental elements of using deductive logic is not just validity, but soundness as well?
Yes.
As a matter of fact,
Correct.
all deductively true arguments are both valid and sound. Not valid on its own, right? I can arrange any sort of, logically valid statement that I want, and that's reason. That's using rationality. That's using reason.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to make it true. It's only going to be true if I have some sort of data
Valid
to
and
put in there,
sound.
right?
Yep, you're right.
To make it sound.
Thomas, what was that exactly? All you have to do is give a clear, quick answer, and that's it. And not do this rant and how stupid I am. And
I was ranting how stupid you were? I'm very
Wow.
confused.
I think he was talking about Vlad, Tom.
Oh, Vlad, I'm
But it's
sorry.
okay.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's the thing that drives me nuts. With I'll be honest, not to be a hater against Nivik, even though I know I am, and I apologize. Is
No, it's
sometimes
okay.
he comes
I
out with
knew
some
that you weren't calling real quick, Vlad. I knew that
yeah.
you weren't calling him stupid. I know that you were calling his ideas stupid, but let's just stay away from that word when we're talking to
Okay,
people,
okay,
okay?
all
Yeah,
right.
because
Okay.
on this app, guys, on this app in Medium, we're not face to face where we can tone and facial expressions and stuff like that can be seen. So that's where we get lost in the
Okay.
dehumanizing of one another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I agree.
Otherwise, if I saw you at the restaurant, we'd be throwing blows.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be talking to
Yeah.
me like that with that
Just
confidence. I'll tell you that.
yeah. You're like
Go ahead.
what the heck
Vlad.
is going on? Hey, Thomas, what's going on here?
Hold
Why
on.
are you yelling at me, Nivik? What's wrong? I mean, what
Well,
do you need to say to Vlad that's
no,
go
no.
ahead.
It's just I don't get like how did things break down like that. It's just a simple response,
Niv-
quick response back and forth. It didn't have to break down like that.
Nivik,
Okay,
I
okay.
just answered your
Go ahead.
question. The thing with the form on this thing is we're not face to face. And what happens is all of us go into this is my perspective, but we all go into our ideas and then people, rather than slowing down, we want all of us in some way want to be right. And then the next thing to know, we're raising our voices to prove our points. So like we have to slow down and be aware of that.
I'm
Whereas
fine.
I simply can't.
Okay.
Okay, so the point of that question was a person that's using one thing to know is that the opposite would be that the other person knows through God because he's absolute in truth. And that's why I'd pose a question that way. Then you can know what to do and what not to do by being guided by God, and not by using your senses, because it'd be
And
hypocritical to use what I use.
I think God, yeah, I think God has just given us the ability to think, rationalize, and to have common sense over time, to know what is right and what is wrong. And it would be wrong for me to go blindly into the street, like you claim, and just walk into the street and just assume nothing's going to happen. When it's
Yeah.
no different than if you tell me, why don't you walk over there in that cliff and just jump off? You're going to fly. No,
So
God doesn't work
no
that way.
different.
Vlad.
But
Vlad.
so what you do
I
is no
want to
different from
hold on.
what I do was
Hey
no different
guys,
from what I do is no different from what you do.
Hold on. Hold
I
on.
feel you. I
Is,
feel
is
you.
your
Let's
is,
go
How would
say
is,
that
your,
be?
something
is,
because
your, is your is your point to that question?
Do you walk in
guys, I'm
blindly
gonna
into
have to
the
start
using
muting
your own
people.
logic?
Guys,
Yeah.
hello.
Okay.
Let's let Scott say something real quick because he's been quiet for a long time. There's other people who've been quiet for a long time, but
Yeah,
I'm also going to get back to Nivik because I want him to get equal time too. So go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I think both you guys are like totally missing the point, right? Like, so Vlad, like your experience of your existence, right? You feel like you're looking out in your from your eyeballs, right? And you hear things coming into your ears. You are your brain, and you're taking in everything that you ever experience is sensory, right? So, like, even your idea of understanding what God is because you read something that went in through your eyeballs, but you yourself are that thing behind the eyeballs, right? Do you see where
Try
I'm
to
going? Like,
explain
this is
using
like,
language, Scott.
well,
Scott,
well,
how
this
many languages? How many languages do you speak?
I couldn't agree with you more, Scott. I'm going to be honest.
Okay,
yeah, like, I
Scott,
mean,
how many? How many? Let me ask this question, Scott. How many languages do you speak?
fluently one.
One. Okay, I speak almost three. Two, well studied in like English language that I'm talking to you right now,
Well,
and
adios,
Spanish, well
mio.
read. But hold on, I know. Thank you. But the third one is French. I have two other
Please.
ability, or two and a half ability, not to put you down or use it as a gotcha or I'm better than you, to show that I'm much more intelligent regarding languages to get across the world in the languages that are most spoken in the world
No,
regarding Spanish, regarding English, we could share, right? Because we're also English speakers. But I speak Spanish. I have a head advantage.
Who can
well,
name the
What I'm
famous
trying,
people?
Can I respond to that question?
hold on,
Can
no,
I
what
respond to that?
I haven't even stopped. I haven't even stopped. That
Vlad, you got
advantage.
to make your
Can
point,
I
man.
finish? Can I finish real quick?
No, no,
30
just
seconds.
keep talking.
Hold on. That advantage allows me, if you want to look at it, when you communicate with God, I'm just using the example of the languages. You have more knowledge, more to work with, more to work from. Well, when you're a Christian,
Oh.
you have that knowledge very similarly.
No,
Okay,
no.
Just
let
like
Scott
that's
jump
a
in.
Hold on, Vlad, because you're making like that's. I mean, that in of itself is a fallacy. You're saying because we have more ways to explain something, therefore it's more true. Not the case, right? Just because Russian has 34 ways to say no doesn't mean it's any better than like English being only having like 5 ways to say no, right? That has nothing to do with the actual validity of the argument. What G was pointing out is everything that you experience is sensory, correct? Right? So
correct.
like anything that you hear, anything that you see, everything, your entire experience is sensory. You and yourself are one entire living being inside a ball of meat that nobody else can ever see
Highly
or
advanced meat.
experience. Yeah, nobody else can ever see or experience or like know exactly what you know, right? Like you are a
So basic,
self-contained
so so
unit,
ba-
right?
so, ba- so basically, and this is how we feel. The more we understand, the more we study, the more we learn, and the more our head gets filled with knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Hopefully, what I'm saying real clear. If I'm in Latin America or Spain, I'm able to get around. You won't. You'll need a translator. You'll need to pay for somebody's help, even though you might know a Spanish word here or there. That's your limitation. When you're a Christian,
So
similarly, when hold on, let me finish, please. When you're a Christian, we have that opportunity to communicate with God because we know more. But that's
Oh,
because
I get his argument.
Nivik, let me finish, dude. Come on. So what I'm saying is, when you become a Christian, you have that ability because you already converted over, so you have that understanding with God biblically. Okay, that's all
okay,
I'm saying. I
I
compare
understand
it
that.
so you can understand it to languages. The more you know in regards to languages, the more you're capacitated,
If I
and
may.
you have an advantage over a person that only speaks one that is monolingual.
Wrong.
I am bilingual and going on to become trilingual pretty
If I
soon,
I'm
if I
glad you
and
may.
cleared that
eventually
up,
polyglot.
Vlad.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not here to
Hang
put
on, Daniel.
anybody
Hang
down.
on, Daniel.
I just want you to get a glimpse of how Christians, we have an advantage in the spiritual realm with the things of God. When you
Okay,
become Christian, this is the ability that God gives you to understand Him, His ways, and
so
what the Bible. That's why the Bible is a book for believers.
so
Unbelievers don't
Vlad, that's the
understand it
claim.
easily.
That's the claim. So let's let G
Uh-huh.
respond to that.
Yeah, if I may, I will say this, Vlad. I do get what you're saying in the sense that, how about this? if it is the case that God is in fact, and specifically the one you're talking about, extant, I could accept that argument. However, as it stands, it is in fact, without the ability to verify that, a special pleading fallacy. Now, that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that the argument's kind of invalid.
Right.
Right? Like, you could very well be completely right, and all of us are just like stupid, and we can't see God because we're, we didn't accept him, and we're all probably going to be like, being tossed into the fiery abyss. But
yeah,
that probably, in my assessment, isn't going to happen.
Yeah, but it's because you don't want it to happen. God gives it freely to all who are willing to believe. You could be on his side, and you'll start.
Can I address your line of argument real quick? If that's the case, what about other religions? They have an argument too. I could bring up anything, any type of nut jobbery type of belief, and I say, you know what, you gotta read this and study that. Yours don't have no more validity than
Work
any
with what they
other.
have and see every country. This is what I know of what I was told from a friend who was a great philosopher, but no longer is able to process things because he had a couple of strokes. Someone beloved to me, Saul Hernandez, who I care about. He's a good friend. He told me each country is represented by its own religion. Look into its religious system, and you'll see how the country, in what state, moral state it is. And that is very true. You go to India, you'll see much poverty, much injustice.
Mm-hmm.
An example: many people are dying from hunger. Slaughter some of those cows, but wait a minute, you can't do that. It's a sacred thing. You cannot do that. You'd rather feed milk from the cow to the rats, but you won't slaughter that cow to eat. All the cows in India would solve the problem with poverty, with malnutrition and lack of food. Okay,
it's
so
probably deeper
look
than
into the
that, but
country. So yeah, there's more. That's true. I'm only giving you a little bit, a little glimpse. I'm not giving you more because that's what I was shared, and it made a lot of sense. Christianity gave us Western civilization with the Enlightenment mix right after the Reformation, yada yada yada, the printing press. Look
Okay.
at what is created. Okay, not
the
Roman
printing press was
Catholicism.
actually made like in the
So
early parts of the Enlightenment. Yeah, let's let Nivik ask a question.
no, actually, no. Leaning away from the religious worldview by people losing faith in God and more, and more thinking through reasoning is what brought us the printed press. It wasn't like
No,
all
what do you
religion.
think the
Religion
first
just
book was
steals.
printed? The Bible was the first book printed
Well,
in Wittenberg, for crying out
if I
loud.
may, if I may, actually, Vlad,
You don't you won't
there's
necessarily know if anything came to be. It was because
well,
of
there's Nivek. There's kind of a good way to test this, right? So, like, let's take a free country, let's just say America, and say, well, how do religious people act whenever they don't have the state gun in their hands, right? Well, it turns out that they proliferate and they have all kinds of denominations, and they, by and large, don't kill people, right? But the moment that you mix that in with the state, like what happened with the Catholic Church, that's exactly what you get. But it actually doesn't matter if it's the Catholic Church or if it's the Macedonians or if it's, the Akhenaten Revolution. It actually doesn't matter what kind of organization that you got. If it's mixed in with the state, you're going to get the same results. It doesn't actually matter if it's religion or otherwise.
Can I
so.
can I
But
answer?
That was well
This is
said,
hold
Jake.
on, hold
Hold on,
on.
Nivik.
This is
Nivik,
so
I want to
far
answer you,
off
Nivik. I
point.
want to answer
Like,
you.
hold on. This is so far off point. I don't even know how it got here. Like the initial thing started off with Vlad talking about like this specific story, and he believed it, right? So
Sure.
if just because somebody has a story that sounds very reasonable, it sounds very sensible, that doesn't mean it's true, right? So like this whole thing started off of you saying, "Oh, I heard the story and it sounded really sensible, so that must be how it is," right? That in of itself is a bias. That's what this show's about. Like once you take this stance of saying, "Oh, I heard this argument that sounded reasonable, therefore it's true."
Oh, I, okay, Scott, I understand what you're saying, but let me ask you, why is it that atheists, the scholars, have not been able to debunk the Bible? And if there is one, please
That's a
show me a
fallacy
book.
too.
Okay,
That's a
no, please show me the book of the scholar that has debunked the Bible as being fallacious, that
Yeah,
Well,
does
because
not
you
let's
don't read it.
hold on, does not is not real in its dating, geography, archaeology, on its claims. It might not be the supernatural you're able to prove, but but in regards to the things it claims that happened, the events, the people, you cannot debunk those
Well,
things.
I mean,
Lad, I can tell you the name of a very famous book that debunked the Bible. It's called On the
Okay,
Origin of Species.
that doesn't debunk the. Oh my goodness sake! Go ahead, continue
No,
with your
no,
monkey
no,
story for
no.
crying out
Like.
loud.
Hold on,
Monkey
Vlad.
stories.
Vlad. Even this
Go.
argumentation is terrible because I could say the same thing. Show me the book that debunks the Great Pumpkin. Show me a book that debunks. Show me all the scholarly work that debunks unicorns. Show me
Leprechauns.
all the scholarly work that
yes,
debunks
yes, Scott's got a
Santa
point here.
Claus. Of course it's not there because it doesn't need to be there because it's fucking ridiculous.
Well, the thing about it is
But I
it's
mean, but come on, if you're gonna say it's invalid, we'll show where it's
well,
invalid.
no.
Break it down. I mean, you
We
have a
were
lot of
saying that
guys like Bart Ehrman, right? Even Bart Ehrman says Christ lived in Christ a man, but he doesn't believe in
Vlad,
Christ a God. Okay, go ahead.
Vlad, they were actually saying that it was your argument that was invalid, not necessarily that the Bible was. Like, so, for example, it's never going to be on me to say, here's where this whole body of thought or concepts is just totally debunked. It's never actually on me to provide that for you. It's actually just on you to provide whatever defense that you have for your own argument. You see
That's
what I'm
right.
saying?
Burden of proof, my friend.
It's the burden of proof. Also, you're kind of slipping into the territory of the fallacy of appeal to ignorance, basically.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Can I
So
say
so
something?
what kind of proof would you like, G, that you're bringing up?
my thing is I don't really want it. I would just like to hear what exactly the arguments are, and if there's anything that I can say analyze thereafter, that's what I kind of
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
You see
So,
what
so
I'm
you're like
saying?
the in-house philosopher. Okay.
Yeah,
He is
You
yeah.
our
should be the in-house.
Socrates.
The
Or no, our
but no, but I
Plato's.
get you.
Nivek is Socrates.
I'm a modern day Lucretius.
There you go. I like that. Nivek is Socrates. You're Lucretius. Scott. I'm Heraclitus because he was crazy as shit.
Oh, by the way,
Um,
guys, I just was revisiting. I've just been revisiting on the nature of things by Lucretius, and it's absolutely fabulous. You guys should go pick it
I
up.
will. I will check it out.
Can I
At
say
least look up a
something?
summary.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, can we get the second in here? Oh, sorry, I didn't see Daniel. Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
didn't see
was just
Daniel either.
gonna
And we got another
say
caller too. I just noticed. I'm sorry. We've got so many speakers, guys. I can't
no,
bring
it's
anybody else up
okay.
to speakers because it'll get chaotic.
No, what
Uh.
I'm gonna say is gonna be really short.
Oh yeah, go ahead,
Um,
Daniel. That's fine, bud.
Vlad, I was just gonna say, I appreciate your passion, but I also like what they're saying isn't wrong. Like, I mean, we have to study the fallacies if we're gonna talk about,
And
the spiritual and stuff. We
a
have to
great
know that
number
we're not.
of theologians like James White, as an example, William Lane Craig, and J.P. Moreland, who had dealt in this realm. They go up to people like Sam Harris,
I
and
know,
previously
but
before he
that's
died,
not. But it's
Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah,
Go
right.
ahead.
we
It's
know.
like
We know
earlier.
Vlad.
Earlier, what they were saying was they were telling you the difference between a sound and a valid argument, and
Mhm.
how you can have a valid argument and you might be telling the truth, but the way you're trying to explain it is I mean, they're very familiar with logical fallacies, and if it's any way that you're trying to get them to understand logically, and any of these are involved, which a lot of times we're unaware that we do them, and they're gonna like point it out, and basically, you got to explain why. They want to know the reasons why you believe what you believe, and how is it logical and reasonable. And we
Right.
Yeah.
can't,
And of
and
course,
we
that's what Saint Peter said very clear. Always give a reason. But the thing is, when faith, that's why the intersection of faith and reason both intersect when you come to Christ. He reasons with you before and all the rest of your life with the Word of God. He says, "Believe in me." And
I
some people,
understand,
and I understand because you're a believer, but people that say no, well, I don't want to come to God like I don't want to come to God, come to Christ like that. I want to use my own. But God doesn't work that way.
but
He says, believe.
that was
Yeah,
the other quick thing that I was gonna say. We have to be very careful that we're not any better than anybody else. Like we have to make sure that we're very clear on that. That just because they or don't believe, it doesn't like I've
time.
No,
You're well known for that.
you you're going
I think
down the
wait,
okay can he was
let
what
me
he was doing was he was going down the reason he was down the line of reason of trying to convince us why we should believe know
Nick's
what
just
we
gonna
know
ask
is
you
what this
questions and
But
challenge your thinking.
no, I understand. I understand. But I understand Nivik very well. I've been dealing with him the last few months. What I'm trying to say is, I cannot
Even get to his transcendental methodology
Idealism.
without God.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
reason why Schopenhauer at the end of Will and Representation said repent. There's a reason why Hegel said, posited the absolute spirit. I mean, like, there's a reason why Wittgenstein posited that at the end of your wits, you reach the mystical, right? Like this, Daniel was saying a minute ago, it's like offensive or anything like that. I get it. That being said, I also get that a lot of the irrational arguments, even with all that said. But
Yes.
I mean, like I said, it doesn't
you're
bother me or
calling
anything like that.
Schopenhauer an irrational person.
Yes,
No.
absolutely. Yes, but don't get me wrong. I don't call him totally. He's my favorite of the idealists. By the
He's
way.
got a lot of.
So in other words,
Yeah,
G,
I mean, he really was.
in other words, G,
Everybody
Well,
has
yeah,
something to teach you.
this
yeah.
Everybody has something
his,
to teach you.
I keep his great ideas and I toss his shit ones. It's as simple as
there's
that.
an objective reality that is there that we all can come to terms on as the truth, and we get information from that
Yeah.
objectivity with our senses. And
Yeah.
the line that he was going down was he was going down that line of how do you know, as a way to convince our method wasn't good, and the response of absolute truth of what's known, that there's an absolute reality that there, versus his argument that he can't of something that he can't point to. There's an absolute from,
yeah,
and to the
but
to, to the
it's
best,
not
but we're not going to
absolute
know.
when God's not involved, Isaac. That's the thing. You think you know it all, but you don't know nothing, really.
No,
Again, going back to the question that Thomas,
I can't take. I don't know everything. I can't take it. I can't
Do
know.
I know that
I
I know
can't.
nothing?
I can't know everything from there's something. Oh my God, bro!
okay,
I can't know everything
go
there
ahead.
is to know
Okay, so
of the
with
environment.
not knowing very well that you don't know enough, how could you come to any conclusion, my friend? That's where
How could
God.
I come to the conclusion that I don't know enough? It's the very same thing. Precisely that manner.